shocked of what I'm hearing here. Are you serious? Because this can't stay away from the region because he's corrupted. He have to take all the world to the third world war because China and Russia, they're not going to leave Iran collapsed or fall. Why? Because this road in the 4th of May last month, it's arrived the first train from China. And this way, it's going to arrive the railway from China.
Okay, Ash, we got 3 other people that may want. Go ahead, you got. You wanted to say something?
Who are you asking?
Amir.
I just gone to you guys, so I'll rather just listen.
Okay.
Anyway.
So I can finish.
Yeah, oh, by the way, this a war won't keep Netanyahu out of prison. Because he's going to trial. He's actively going to trial as we speak, right? So
since 2020.
Even throughout this war, say again.
Since 2020.
Since 2020.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yes, he's actively going to trial in front of the Supreme Court, right? So just because there is a war doesn't mean that it's going to prevent the Supreme Court from adjudicating. So you can make all the claims that you want to. You can say that you can make all the claims that you I tried not to speak while you were speaking. No. It's very difficult to. No.
One mic. Hold on 1 second. It's really hard hearing you guys when everybody is trying to talk at the same time. So please let the person land, and then the next person can go ahead and speak. Go ahead.
Thank you. So just because you believe that he needs a war just to get out of going to jail or being sentenced or whatever, that is not true. And also the courts are not in his favor in Israel. The Supreme Court doesn't necessarily like him, but they are holding the trial as fairly as possible. So whatever crimes he has committed, whatever his judgment is, he's going to look forward to it. And in case most of you do not know, Israel is the only country that I'm aware of in modern history that has sent a leader, prime minister, or president to prison.
That's not a real good consolation prize, Ron. And we're talking about nuclear war, whether he goes to jail or not, we'll all be in jail. We'll all be in jail. It's like, so whether he actually gets brought to a trial one day,
Iran doesn't have
nobody, I didn't cut you off, bro. I was just trying to finish my thought, that's all. Nobody's excited that, oh, wow, at least he went to jail, while the rest of the world is still dealing with nuclear fallout and now the triggering of things. He's gone, he's off the scene now, but now Iran and the rest of the world and America is very involved in China, whatever else, bro. So I appreciate your insight into that. Whatever you just said, Israel is, the only one or whatever, and they've arrested. Bro, that sounds good, but you know what? Truthfully, to talk about whether he ever gets brought to a court of justice since 2020 or not, and whether he ever sees justice, the planet is concerned, believe it or not, with the planet and the geopolitics of what he represents with America and the Middle East and oil and nuclear energy and centrifuges and the levels that Iran has a lot of, like someone said in the room earlier, they have a lot of people in America, bro, that are good-hearted people, I'm sure. Or else they would have been arrested by now by Donald Trump or whatever for being whatever. They haven't shown any, a lot of people are upset about a lot of things, but people don't just go off the handle and just be running around shooting folks yet. We're trying to stop that, bro, because people in America are from all over the world. Yeah, they're American, but they're usually Irish American, Middle Eastern American, Africa, the country.
He was talking about him going to court, babe.
I know. But I know he was, and I get it. And I was just trying to say, he bringing that into the conversation while we're talking about whether he's going to get justice in a court or not. But
I mean, hopefully he does, but he's been using the war as a way to push back. Cause he just started freaking prosecuting.
Every year that he's been.
But it probably won't happen in the next 2 weeks, is all I'm saying. I don't think he's going to get brought up and go to jail in the next week or two.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's been 5 years and they're just throwing him the cross-examination. It's crazy.
Just a second, let me say something. He eliminated Netanyahu. He eliminated the head of Shabak because he asked the Shabak to give him a reason to don't present in front of the court. And Shabak, they say no. So he eliminated the head of Shabak. And the head of Shabak, you have your phone. Just go and search. The head of Shabak now is in interrogation that why Netanyahu is trying to using his dictatorship way to keep everything under his control. Only his control. He controls Shabak. He controls the CIA. Shabak is part of CIA. He controls everything, and he doesn't want to present in front of the court. Why? Because there is national security. That when the Shabak they say we're not going to support that, he eliminated the head of Shabak.
Shabak is the equivalent of the FBI, and he tried to terminate the position, but from Ronan Bar. But Ronan Bar, he went to the courts, and the court said that it was unjust, and he couldn't just fire him whenever he chose to. So he tried to also do the same thing with the Attorney General. Yes, Netanyahu is similar to Trump. He wants people to be absolutely loyal to him. However, fortunately for the state of Israel, right, the courts still have a lot of power and control over how the government is run.
So I can have the actual facts.
And because of that,
we're going to see Netanyahu in a court.
And because of that, thank you very much. The court is able to order him to create order where he has created chaos in the government and administration. Thank you.
But not in the next 2 weeks. The head of Shabak. Can somebody spell Shabak? Because I'm not sure how to spell that. So I can.
Shabak is an acronym, and I'll put it in the chat for you.
I appreciate that, Ron.
I don't know why you care, because you are not Israeli.
Well, you don't know a lot about why I care about a lot of things, bro. But you just play your cards out. Don't worry about me. We're just having a conversation in here. Okay. All right? You got other problems to worry about, not me.
You mentioned something also about fallout and all of this stuff. I think the point of the matter is that the prevention of a nuclear war, right? Now, fine, people will say that they don't believe that Iran had any intention of creating nuclear weapons. I don't know. All I know is that we have a report, we have some intelligence coming from the American intelligence community, we have a president who's kind of rogue right now, Trump, and we also have some intelligence coming from a few other places. And those people know more than what the media is supposed to know or does know.
Every country with nuclear abilities and warheads knows that it tells any other country, we will destroy your ass if you mess with us. I guarantee you China feels that way. Hold on, bro. Hold on for a minute. Hold on, China feels that way. I promise you Russia feels that way.
Come on, y'all.
So all I'm saying is that, bro, so, again, them getting the ability to have all of that is not the issue, man. That scares Israel. But there's a lot of countries that have nuclear abilities, and they ain't running around with it just destroying folks. So only when they're provoked. Only when they're provoked. And I'm looking for Shabak. If somebody else, Ron may never put it in there because he doesn't understand why I want to research the facts about the head of Shabak has been, removed. I want to look into the facts that whatever that is, but I can't spell it. That's one thing. But back to what I'm saying, bro. So the fact. No, one second, bro. Let me finish my one. No, I'm not giving you permission to cut me off.
One mic.
So I'm going to give y'all permission to both stay on mute. I think Dr. David had his hand up for a while and nobody been able to bring him up. So go ahead, Dr. David. You want?
Yeah. So just in context here, this war, hot war, started back in April of 2024 when Joe Biden was in office. The Iran and Israel have been trading salvos for a while. It first started with Israel destroying the Iranian consulate, which is the hot war. They said was in response to the proxies that Iran was funding, and then they basically just started shooting at each other. Then they did it again in October, and then the incoming president sent out an envoy to get them to all stop, and they stopped. And then they agreed to stop for a period of 6 months or so after he took office. And then, as that time expired, Israel has began their restarted their campaign that they wanted to do from way back from last year. So I think people are falsely attributing the conflict that's ongoing right now with the current administration as if this wasn't going on back in April of 2024. This administration is now trying to put out that fire that had long been ignited when they weren't even in office. First off. Secondly, in putting out that fire, they are dealing with an uphill battle. The Israeli lobby controls most of the seats in Congress. For example, if you look at the New York Congressman, what was his name, Bowman, whoever his name is, in the Bronx, who was against the Israeli lobby, he lost his seat. They do this all across the country. They fund candidates to remove members of Congress that are hostile to them. And they have succeeded in controlling most of the seats in Congress, which means most of the people in the U.S. Congress have allegiance to the Israeli lobby, which has full allegiance to Netanyahu and the leadership of Israel. So therefore, most of the government is going to be pro-Israel and give them whatever it is they want. And this may not even be in the best interest of Israel to be giving them everything they want. So if Netanyahu says this is what we need, the Israeli lobby says no problem. We're going to force the U.S. Politicians on our payroll to support it. So to kind of be hostile to their agenda is very difficult position for a U.S. congressperson. They're likely to lose their seat, just like Jamal Bowman lost his seat. And then for President Trump in his position, while his philosophy being peace through strength, it's very unclear where he stands at this point. I'm speculating here. I listen to Professor Mearsheimer a lot on this. I listen to a number of folks. It's unclear where he stands on this. Some people are saying that he's already decided to join the attack. Some people are saying that he's putting out rhetoric, like he has done in the past, to force a concession from Iran, basically with the threat of force. And the threat is credible enough, they'll make a concession in line with what could be considered acceptable, and they can have peace. So I agree with people that are saying that this is kind of like anti-MAGA, but the position that is people have to understand is this conflict, just like the Russia-Ukraine war, was ongoing when this administration came in. Their now job is to put out the fire in the Russia-Ukraine war and then put out the fire with this Iran war, which was already going before they came in. And they succeeded in 6 months of peace started. But Israel was already foaming at the mouth to do what they're doing now. And it's hard to stop them when they have full control of almost every congressperson, with a few exceptions in the U.S. and senator too.
Crisis, you were trying to hold on one second. Crisis, you were trying to speak. Go ahead, Crisis.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep it real simple. So Dr. David made a very valid point when he talked about this being something that has been spawning since before the current administration. I just want to point out something real quick. For those of you who remember who Mahmoud Dinajad was a 12er. And if I'm not mistaken, the majority of the people in the council that run Iran are also 12ers. If you understand what being a 12er means, then you'll understand what their concept is of where the 12th Imam would come on the stage, or on the world stage, and what needs to happen in order for him to come on the world stage. In the chat, I just put a link to a video of a conversation between Benjamin Netanyahu and some of the elder rabbis in the 90s, where they're basically saying the same thing to him, because in order for their Messiah to come back, the world also has to be in turmoil. in order for their Messiah to come back. And you see this rabbi telling him in the 90s that he's going to be the one that's going to be leading the country at the time when when their Messiah comes back. But more importantly, is he's asking him to hasten that return. So when you understand what it takes for that return to happen, and you see that his elder rabbis are asking him to hasten that return, what you're seeing right now is really an exchange between two people who have similar understanding of when the 12th Imam or the Messiah for the Jewish people is supposed to come back, and basically creating the situation for either or to be able to come to the world stage. And I'll land with that.
This 12er concept, is it in that video? Do they mention 12er?
No, in this particular video, this is the one about Benjamin Netanyahu, but I can find you the one for Mahmoudinejad, because Mahmoudinejad, when he was the leader of Iran, or the prime minister of Iran, he was not very shy about his beliefs. He was absolutely not shy about his beliefs.
He was the president of Iran.
No, that's
Right,
fine.
right, and he was-
I get that. I just
Yeah,
wanted
he
to
was-
know
he
about the
was-
12er, and I know about the Mahdi and the Messiah and all this stuff, but I wanted to get a little more.
Yeah, the concept of the 12ers. The 12ers are. It depends on who you talk to, because some people will say that they're more radical. Some people will say that they're following Shia Islam, but the concept is that the 12th Mahdi can't come back until the world is in turmoil or chaos. The same thing for the Moshiach on the Jewish side. So from the 90s, they're asking Benjamin Netanyahu to hasten the return of the Moshiach. But when Mahmoudinejad was president of Iran, he openly said that he was trying to bring the 12th Imam back. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where, for us on the sideline, looking at it from a political standpoint, we're being pulled into a situation that even when we try to make sense of it from a political edge, it's even beyond that, which is what makes these conversations so difficult, because we're trying to look at it from one lens, but the people on the ground are not even looking at it from that lens. And I land with that.
So I kind of agree with Crisis. Some of this is also messianic, but it's mostly messianic from the 12er perspective, because according to, there are different opinions in Judaism, but there's supposed to be chaos, but you can't hasten the idea of the Messiah by creating chaos. However, this 12er notion, if anybody can look it up, you can go and yes, Dr. David, or whoever wrote that, the evangelicals created this concept, and it sort of got incepted and imposed by people that that's what Judaism believes. But this 12er concept is something that is that the Ayatollah and Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the previous president, fully believes, and it's an aspect. There are several Muslims on the stage, so I'm sure we can ask any of them if they would be honest about it, that they have to destroy Israel in order for the 12th Imam to emerge.
Since we're bringing in evangelical and scriptures into the conversation, Israel, the idea is not that they would find a land and put themselves in there. God would put them in a land. Back to that thought of 1947 and the kind of British and with Churchill and all of this stuff, this whole idea, that right there is totally contrary to scripture, by the way, because the idea is that they would be placed in a land, that God would put them in a land. It sure wouldn't be Winston Churchill or who the hell ever in the Britain.
But that's the thing that you don't understand, is that the early Zionists, right, all of these people, while they were quote-unquote secular, they weren't trying to fulfill some sort of messianic reality.
Well, it can happen both ways, though, Ron.
Well, let me... So their perspective was, if you read like the entire breadth of literature and see who these people are, their issue was that they were being attacked, having pogroms or whatever in Europe. The Europeans told them to go back to wherever they came from, so they started a campaign to to say, they started a campaign to say, well, we came from, our ancestry came from Israel,
So
right?
the whole world has to suffer because Hitler said, "Go back where you came from."
No,
Hitler was triggered by Hitler saying, "Go back where you came from."
No, wait,
Hitler told the European countries, if you love these Jews so much, come take them. And they refused, so they killed them.
Yeah, so then they just pop them back over there amongst these the natives in that land, the Ottoman Empire, and they just pop them in there.
He gave the Americans and the Europeans plenty of opportunity to take the Jews.
Allow me to finish my synopsis. Right?
When you're done, can I go after you?
Yeah, sure.
I want to add on to what you're saying.
So the position that they had was, okay, we live in a world where these nation states are being created. As a matter of fact, they went to the Ottoman Empire. They went to the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire for the purpose of creating a legal case for creating a small state for the Jews to live there. Right, during the Ottoman Empire, then World War I happened, and they created a deal with the British Empire to create a state within the land space. They weren't trying to take over all of the land space. They were going to the people that controlled the land. As a matter of fact, they purchased land. They had a fund called the JNF Fund. You can look it up, where they purchased the land from the Ottoman Empire, from the government, and also from the British Empire in order to create a state. And that was the land that was initially declared as the State of Israel.
So brother Ron, before you go too far,
See, we can't get to the truth.
One moment,
They, and you confuse
one moment,
they.
sweet.
You don't
One
define.
moment, sweet. One moment, sweet, please. So brother Ron, like, just to add to what you're saying, is it fair to say that we're probably living in an era where this is prophecy manufactured instead of prophecy manifested? Because what you just described and what I just described, and the two leaders that we were referring to, we both can agree that their core beliefs don't say that you're supposed to hasten it, but yet they both were told to hasten it. So if you're being told to hasten it, right? So it's like if you're being told to hasten it, but yet your beliefs say that you're not supposed to be hastening it, that would mean you're trying to manufacture prophecy rather than allowing it to manifest.
So that's the issue. I don't, as far as I know, I don't believe that there's any concept in Judaism to hasten to create the conditions for the Messiah to
Happened in
come.
1948, bro.
No, the video I put in the chat. The video I put in the chat clearly says it.
You put it in the chat. What you put in the chat is a video of Netanyahu speaking with, I think, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who's a Hasidic rabbi who has various interesting ideas, and quite honestly, his followers believe that he is the Messiah, right? They believe that he is the Messiah that came. He has a somewhat of a small to medium-sized following amongst the Jews.
You just said Hitler told them to leave, and therefore that go back to your land. You just said that. Hold on, bro. Let me quote you.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
You said the Europeans told them go back to your land. You said the Europeans told them go back to their land. You didn't say that?
Hitler didn't even exist.
You did say that, bro.
When Theodor Herzl wrote his book, or his manifest about creating a Jewish state, and Hitler wasn't even the chancellor.
Okay, no problem, bro. You didn't say who. You said they.
Why do you keep interrupting me?
We're having a dialogue, bro, because I'm trying to dialogue on what you're saying. You don't want any pushback.
You have zero impulse.
You don't want any pushback. It's not about impulse control.
You're a grown man. You're probably like 20 years older than I am.
Don't worry about all that. What you're saying doesn't make sense.
I need you to relax a little bit and calm down so I can finish what I have to say.
I'm calm.
Well, then let me finish what I have to say.
That protracted doesn't work, though. You brought up the fact. I was in the middle of what I was saying. You cut me off. You got through saying that they were told go back to their own land.
We can't hear you.
You said that, Ron.
Thank you.
So maybe the moderator can check you because you're interrupting me, bro. So what I'm trying to do is I'm taking what you said again. You just got through saying, earlier you talked about LA and Nevada. Right now you just got through saying that their argument is, based on what the other brother was saying, Crisis, you said that the Europeans told them go back to their land. is what Crisis was bringing up. And the whole point was, you said, go back to your original land. And therefore, they didn't just do it on their own. It was the British that said, and then the Ottoman Empire.
That's not actually what I was
You were
saying.
not listening. You were just.
No, that's not what he was saying. I get it. I'm not trying to say that that's what you
were
said. That's
just
what I'm
making.
saying.
Why don't you stop? Why don't you
Because these are the facts of what happened, bro.
No, that's not what happened.
You would probably
That-
Some Europeans in 1947, 48, hurts all of that, bro. They went in there and plopped themselves down, bro.
That's false.
And
Let the
somebody
first
else
person-
straighten out what I just said.
Hold on, sweet.
Show me where I
One
was
mic.
off.
Sweet and Ron, we can't hear both of you at the same time. And it's kind of hard listening to both of y'all talking at the same time. So one person speak, Sweet, finish speaking, and then Ron, you can chime in.
Right. So I would like to hear somebody come in other than Ron and tell me with their scholarship where agreement with what Ron said, that the people in there, he doesn't like the idea of Hitler. Some Europeans told these Jews, not Africans, some Europeans told these Jews, get the hell out of here, go back to wherever the hell you from. We don't like y'all. We'll kill you. Get away from us. So now, hold on. I'm not done yet. Can I just
You
finish
just
the thought?
repeated the same thing you
No,
just said.
I'm not done yet. That's why. So let me build to what I'm telling you. So what I'm telling you is this, because the whole point is them plopping themselves down in a secular way. Let Ron tell it. So somebody tell me how the British were not doing exactly what Christ has said about now they're rushing this thing and coming in here saying, okay, we're now, because we can't, the Jews don't have a home over there in Europe somewhere. The Europeans don't want them there. So now that led to over the British, who was already very interested with the Ottoman Empire, and they had their own thing going on. They came in there and tried to set this thing up with the Ottoman Empire to do this. Somebody show me where that's what I just said is wrong.
All right, so during World War II, Hitler made many overtures to Western countries, Canada, America, European countries, all of them. Come get these people. You don't want us to kill them? No problem. Get them. We don't want them in our country anymore. Come get them. And not a single one of them agreed to take on the Jewish population. Not a single. In all these countries, the Jewish communities in Russia, the Jewish communities in UK, America, all came together on their own and realized that these countries that we're in don't want us here. We don't have a place that will take us when we're being persecuted. We don't have a homeland. So they came together and pressured the various countries, the victors of World War II, that we want our homeland. None of you were reliable avenues for us to escape persecution. All of you refused. That's
Europeans refused. All the Europeans
So,
refused.
so can I?
Yes,
can
and
I
Americans too.
say
And
something
Americans
about
and
that?
Europeans in America, by the way. America is
in
in
America
Can I-
too.
can I actually
They all refused to
actually
take them.
organize
But
the
right,
conversation?
so if they had taken them, it wouldn't be a Holocaust. But
Can
they
I
didn't
please?
take them.
Can I?
So
Can I
this
please
is the
organize
reality.
this?
That's
So they
not-
said, listen, we need
That's
a
not the Middle East.
There's the history has been distorted, and it seems that some people want to start at 1948. Some people don't know that Theodor Herzl and Hitler were not at the same time. They had no connection to each other, other than they probably spoke German. Both probably spoke German.
Make that make sense.
And-
Why are you talking about this? Go ahead.
But because it's the history that you're trying to conflate, and it doesn't make it. Yeah, excuse me, let me finish.
We let him
Talk about the
finish.
British, and this has been since the 1800s, so it's not.
Yeah, so there are already Jews since the early 1800s making migrations from Europe into the Ottoman Empire, right? Throughout the Ottoman Empire, mostly in the land that became the British Mandate of Israel, and then also which became the State of Israel. Already, and I mean, since the 1400s, actually, you find migrations of Jews post the Spanish Inquisition living in the areas, living in places like Sfat, their current day Sfat, and Jerusalem, and Haifa, places like this. So, and Tiberias, right? So the issue is that there were these empire places before modern states. America and France are two of the most modern states that we have in history, because otherwise we had these empires which were just land masses that were controlled by kings and kingdoms. And that was only 100-something years ago, right? So you had the British Empire, which controlled a vast variety of states and spaces throughout the world. You had the Ottoman Empire, which controlled most of what we call the Middle East today, right? Not just where Turkey is, which is
This has been destroyed to create.
Let him land. Somebody's going to tie this together somehow. Let it get there. I don't know where he's going, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So you had the Ottoman Empire, which was controlled by Turkey, or the head of Turkey, right, the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, and then the British came and broke up the Ottoman Empire because they were enemies, they were a threat to one another. That was World War One. After World War One, before World War One, and there are already Jews living in those spaces, they already planned to go to the Sultan to declare themselves a sovereign state within the Ottoman Empire, what later became the British Mandate of Palestine. Once the British once the British took control over the Ottoman Empire, and the British were creating nation states out of the Ottoman Empire, which includes modern day Egypt, modern day Libya, Syria. They created modern day Iraq and modern day Iran, and also Pakistan. They created all of these states, and then they created them, and also Jordan, I should say. And Jordan, which the area was called Transjordan, or the British Mandate of Palestine and Transjordan, and the British Mandate of Palestine and Jordan, right? They created Jordan as a state, and they were creating Palestine as a state, and also they had a promise to create the state of Israel. And the Jews that were there, they purchased the land that they wanted to become the state. And then across the next 40 years, there were some conflicts. So the British divided the land into two parts.
Hold on 1 second. Nobody's going to get enough time to refute all this.
Ron, just for clarification, are you still in World War I, or are you in World War II?
I haven't gotten up to World War II yet. Okay,
we're still in World War I, is what you're saying. All right,
we're past we're between World War I and World War II. World War I ended in 19.
As long as I can get as much time to refute all this he's saying, which I know I won't.
World War I happened in 1917. World War II ended in 40 something. So 44, I think.
No.
It
wasn't 44.
Just let me.
Just let him put it all out there, and then he's going to cut off anybody that after 10 seconds when they try to refute all that he's allowed to just go ahead and say.
Ron, make sure you mention Thomas Lawrence.
And mention the Ottoman Empire.
Make sure you mention Thomas Lawrence when you're talking about World War I, because if you don't mention Thomas Lawrence, then I'm not going to lie to you, it sounds like a disingenuous.
So what do you have to say about Thomas Lawrence? You tell me about Thomas.
Thomas Lawrence is one of the people who was able to galvanize the local population to fight against the Ottoman Empire during the latter half of World War I. Thomas Lawrence is also the person who they based the character of Lawrence of Arabia after. In his memoirs, he describes the local population, which today we would call Palestinians. He described them as some of the most courageous people that he had ever met, because they didn't have any type of mechanized weaponry. They were dealing with the most whack weapons that you could have at the time, but yet because of the fact that he was giving them an understanding that if they fought for that land, it could become their own, they were willing to fight. And it's the reneging on that started to cause a lot of strife. So now when we take it to the further part going forward, what I mentioned earlier about prophecy manufactured, aka creating a state of Israel instead of God giving them one, versus prophecy manifested, that's when we start to get into that part of the conversation. So as you're describing what you're describing, I just want you to make sure That's why I asked you, are you still in World War I or are you in World War II?
So you're talking about Sir Thomas Lawrence, right? Sir Thomas Lawrence.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And Sir Thomas Lawrence died in 1830. Is that correct?
No, we're not talking about the same person, because the Thomas Lawrence that I'm referring to.
Jesus Christ, you don't know who Lawrence of Arabia is?
Yeah, he was a British officer. He was a British Army officer. You know what I mean? During the time of World War I. You know what I mean? So he didn't die in 18 anything because he was born in 1888. So there's no way he could have died, you know what I mean, before World War I. So that's what I'm referring to.
Oh, T.E. Lawrence. Okay, 1935. Got it. He died.
Right. So that's why I was asking you. Are you still talking about World War I, or are you talking about World War II?
Yeah. So I don't know what that has to do with the idea of prophecy manufactured, because the early Zionists didn't see themselves as a messianic reality, right? They saw themselves.
I'll tell you real quick what it has to do.
They saw themselves as creating a Jewish state, or a place where Jews can go, where they could feel safe and protected, and sort of in somewhat seclusion or isolation, but also have self-determination from.
We're in agreement with that. We're in agreement. At least I am in agreement. I don't know about the rest of the room, but I'm in agreement with you with that. But what I am saying is this. Here's why it's important. Because when he was boots on the ground, he was able to galvanize the local population, the people that we would now call Palestinians. The promise was that if they rose up against the Ottoman Empire and helped disturb the train supply chains, that they could then have their own nation. And what happened?
So that's the thing, is that they were going to have their own nation, right? They were. Did you mute, or would you?
After they gave him.
Sorry, you went out for a second.
Yeah, my bad. I got a phone call. My bad. So after they gave him their support, and after they fought on his behalf and on essentially the Crown's behalf, they were not given what they were promised. And this begins the slow roll to where we're at today.
Yeah, so that was the thing. So that's why I remember there was a partition plan in I think 1936 or something like this.
No, the partition plan comes later than that.
Or 1946. It was before the creation of the modern state of Israel. And actually, the United Nations had, when they were creating all of these other states, again, Libya and Syria and Egypt, modern day Egypt, modern day Turkey, all of these countries, right? And also including Jordan, they said okay, there will be a state of Israel and there will be a state of Palestine.
Right. So real quick, let's at least correct history real quick. So the first time the concept of a state of Israel came was before the United Nations.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so that's the League of Nations. Now, the thing is this is what they promised the locals who rose up against the Ottoman Empire. Mm-hmm. And then they turned around and reneged on their promise.
No, they didn't renege on the promise. They
absolutely.
The reason why they did not renege on the promise is because they had a vote. They had a vote of the League of Nations, and at the same time that they had a vote of the League of Nations for the state of Israel, and everybody had a vote. It was the Arab countries actually that did not want a state of Palestine.
Okay, so now you're talking.
Countries that British Empire.
Right.
It gives them power in Saudi Arabia, Emirates Arabia.
Right, so Ron, once again,
I don't even know what Ash is saying, but go ahead.
You're confusing the mandate of Palestine with later UN partition.
No, I'm not confusing that.
No. So Ron, here's the thing. When they first proposed it with the League of Nations, the idea of a state of Israel was shot down. Now, after World War II, it was actually approved. What I'm saying to you is they had already promised the locals who rose up and disturbed the train supply chains of the Ottoman Empire. They had already promised them, hey, don't be scared of these people who are ruling over you. If you rise up and help us, we're going to make sure that you have your own nation. And then
Okay, and they also made the same promise to the Jews, like that was 40 years earlier, right?
But who was on the land in a majority fashion before?
It doesn't matter who was on. It doesn't matter who was on the land in the majority fashion. This is one. Excuse me, crisis. Excuse me. It doesn't matter. One, it doesn't matter who was on the land in the majority fashion, as you say. Two, the land that the Jews wanted for the land that the Jews wanted for the state of Israel was land that they purchased, right?
I agree with you about the purchase. I agree with you about the purchase.
Like I said, there was the Jewish National Fund, which was a fund that these Jews put their money together to purchase land. They had already been purchasing land during
we can sing together, but we can't talk together.
While I'm talking, I'm trying to.
Is there any possibility of
Ron, if you could, Ron, you've been talking for a while now, so if you could wrap it up and allow other people to speak, because a lot of people are not agreeing with you on stage and also in the goo.
No, they don't have to agree. I mean, it's the history.
I understand that, but they want a rebuttal, so you have to allow that.
Okay, so fine. Can I speak with one person at a time? I'll speak
Ron,
with
can you
crisis.
stop there? You already covered.
No, we can speak with crisis.
Emperor, can you kind of continue? Because
Yeah,
actually,
I'll try. This is really hard. So, the Jewish National Fund, like there is a lot of stuff to correct. Like it's impossible to do it in one go. The Jewish National Fund didn't purchase the land, right? Or any quantity of land that is similar to modern day borders of internationally recognized Israel. They purchased 5% of the mandate. That's one thing. Second thing, there is a confusion between the mandate and UN partition plan, and then what Crisis was saying, this is why Lawrence of Arabia is important, right? The promise given to the people in Palestine through negotiations of Lawrence of Arabia. There is a film, it's a really good one, check it out. And a separate promise to the Jewish people that will come through with the Balfour Declaration with some caveats, right, that still allowed for people on the land there that would later change with political statements coming from the British, right? The conflation of the Transjordan as a separate state that is designated for Palestinian is incorrect. There are two mandates for Palestine, right? So if you're saying, I don't know if you're saying that, Ron, that promise to the Palestinians in a two-state solution is fulfilled, it's not fulfilled. That mandate is a completely different thing. It is unrelated to any notions of two-state solution. Jordan is not the state of Palestinians. What else was there? Let's stop here.
No, Emperor. The other part that you're trying to remember is the time frame. It's based off of them giving the promise to the locals who uprised against the Ottoman Empire versus the time that they decided that they granted the land of Israel to be for the Jewish people. That was the other part. If you can go into that.
The mandate, the Balfour Declaration, what's the dates on those? I can't remember off the top of my head.
1917.
Yes, the mandate I think it happens concurrently. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, actually,
it is concurrently.
The Faisal-Weizmann agreement, which promises some land, and it wasn't Lawrence of Arabia apparently that did it himself. I found some documents. I'm looking it up. Happened in 1919, which was 2 years after the Balfour Declaration, which is where the British promised land already to the Jews.
Right, and Ron, just to clarify you, Ron, and I'm gonna give it back to you, Emperor. What happened with that is that he was the one who was on the ground. In order for him to gain the favor and support, this was what the generals above him told him to say to the locals. The locals then had a belief and a fever to get out of the Ottoman rule and fight on behalf of what they felt was going to be a future nation for them. Lawrence of Arabia himself, in his own memoirs, talks about how he regretted the fact that they didn't live up to that promise. But the governments say that they didn't formally ever give them that promise. Now we get into the semantics of things. If you're going to manipulate a people to fight on your behalf and then turn around and say, well, we never formalized it, so therefore we don't have to live up to that agreement. How fair is that for the people who were already there, fought, bled, and died for a cause that you wanted? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yet, not you meaning Ron, but you meaning the allied powers versus the Axis powers. But yet you turn around and backdoor them on the end. Like, of course you're gonna create a generational beef after that. Of course. Like,
Yeah,
of course.
that goes to the.
I think that, have you read these documents? Have you actually read these documents? The Faisal-Weizmann document? Have you read this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But
Empire?
the thing is, those are the.
No, you read the entire document.
Those are the formal documents. I'm talking about what they were actually told.
No, I know what you feel like what they were actually told. Like, that we don't know what they were actually told word for word.
I mean, he said it in his own memoir.
We know what's written down, right? That's what we know. We know what contracts are written down. We know what amendments and statements and those things that were written down. We have copies.
And now you just said the key word. Contract.
Can we?
Contracts and amendments.
But did you read this document? Because
Why are we getting into this rabbit hole? Like, I'm sorry.
It's not a rabbit hole. The question is did you read the documents?
Yes, I read it. I read the documents, and the documents argue to your point. In
the Balfour Declaration, for example, right? People they mention it, but they never mention that the Balfour Declaration itself promises that the inhabitants on the native inhabitants on the Jewish land that will become the Jewish state, even including that 5 to 7%, whatever it is, would have full rights and citizenship within that territory, right? So that was in this Faisal-Weizmann agreement. Anybody can look it up. It's on the United Nations website. It also promises a partnership between the two parties, the head of a Palestinian group and the President Weizmann, who was the first Israeli president, I think, or second Israeli president, I forget which one, who and they promise that there will be also a partnership. And as a matter, like, they would have the Jewish land and they would have the Palestinian land. And
so Ron, before can we let Ash jump in real quick? Because Ash has been trying to get in forever.
It seems as if in the Faisal-Weizmann.
Why are we in this rabbit hole? Like, I'm really sorry.
It's not a rabbit hole. It's not a rabbit hole.
I need the mic.
30 seconds, please. 30 seconds.
Yeah, can we let Ash jump in? Ash, it's all on you.
Because I'm going underground soon, so I just have 30 seconds. Please, guys, I hope and I wish from all my heart, because the benefit of the United States population is the benefit of European population, is the benefit of African population, is the benefit of Asian and South Asian population. We don't have to run after this son of these motherfuckers Zionists because they follow They have them way and them religion and prophecy, and they try to negate the reality to become and accept them fucking prophecy. We live well. We can live very, very fucking effectively, perfectly without them. Don't let us and don't let the MAGA make America great again, make everyone great again, got corrupted or got, how I can say it, interfered. Somebody come in and try to disrupt and broken down the MAGA. Make America and population of America great again. Look at how the people living, and if America going more, what they gonna lose? How much money is they gonna drop down? How much blood they gonna drop down? How much? And tell me, if you give a chance for any person to come in to corrupt the MAGA or corrupt or deviate the MAGA direction, don't give him a chance. Just put him in a cross and just
Thank you.
do what you have to do.
Okay, so Ron, all due respect, Crisis, like the historical tangent is interesting in terms of how duplicitous the British are, but all of those things have no legal meaning for modern day politics, right? The people in Palestine and people who are not in Palestine and have the right of return and lived in Palestine and have been forcibly displaced have a right of self-determination and right of return, irrespective of.
So you're using modern.
Can I?
Let him finish, Ron. Let him finish.
Hey Gemini, happy Saturday.
Hey, happy Saturday.
Gemini, you know I still need one of your dogs, but yeah.
Yeah, irrespective of Lawrence of Arabia, interesting history, right? People of Palestine, right? Or people who are.
By the way, I can't hear nothing you guys are saying. I'm in the middle of a call, so I'll definitely chime in later, but I'm not here. I'm here, but I'm...
Okay. I'll drop.
He just says that Lawrence of Arabia, he just said that.
Okay.
Yeah, he just
saying,
says that Lawrence of Arabia, he was a homosexual and he corrupted all the family.
What the fuck is going on in this?
Emperor, finish what you were saying, bro.
I'm saying that people today, right, like irrespective of Lawrence of Arabia Korea's history, it's a tangent, as though legal being, right? It has some normative, moral story about how British promise everybody everything and do not deliver, right? But people of Palestine, Palestinians, have their right of self-determination. That is an inalienable right under international law, irrespective of Lawrence of Arabia history. So it's a tangent. It doesn't inform any notion of legality or right.
Right, so
Okay,
Emperor,
so
Emperor, can I tell you something real quick, Emperor? You know that
Sure.
what you just said just now is literally the same argument that the U.S. government or the United States population make against the Native Americans.
Sorry,
Because-
what?
And I'm gonna tell you why. Because what will happen is they'll come to a certain area and be like, "Hey, we wanna be able to hunt and fish and build houses in this area. Can y'all help us?" And then they helped them, and then they turn around a season later because they were moving. They were like nomads. They were moving
Chris,
around.
you misunderstood.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood you because what I'm saying is this: the reason why I brought up Lawrence of Arabia was because I was trying to point out the way that they use legal contract versus verbal contract. The verbal contract is what they used in order to get the local population, Palestinians, to rise up against their ruling party, the Ottomans. But then afterwards, they reneged on it. And when they reneged on it, that's what started to create the resentment that has festered into what we're seeing today.
But it's,
I agree with you,
incorrect.
but
It's incorrect. The issue that you have, Crisis, is that you sort of treat the Palestinians as if they were like Native Americans, that you didn't understand Western law, right? Or the same sort of like legal structures as we understand them today in like mainstream society. But the truth of the matter is that the Palestinians are a Muslim people who they understood the Quran. They understood legal structures because Islam is a legal religion. It's a legal reality, and the law in the land was controlled under Sharia law under the Ottoman Empire. These people had a concept of contracts. They had a concept of promises. They had a concept of writing deeds and land grants and things like this. This is not something new to them that was just manifested by these random Europeans that are quote unquote Europeans, because a lot of the Jews that were there were not just Europeans.
I would agree with you, Ron.
Under the Osman Empire,
but
it was lie regime.
Why do you?
They don't believe in God.
Why do you
Muslim, Christian.
Why do you keep jumping in and nobody understands?
No. I'm just telling you. Under the Ottoman Empire.
Let him run.
I'm just telling you. Under the Osman Empire, it was living Christian, Muslim, Hebrew. People doesn't believe in nothing. Under the Osman Empire, they was living perfectly in peace until the fucking World War and it is member.
Can we introduce some structure in the conversation? Like, why are we discussing the thing that we're discussing, or is this just like one historical tangent?
I'm answering. No. Wait a second. I'm answering to discussion already around. If you come in late,
I'm not late. I've been here for hours.
I'll tell you what we're discussing.
Okay.
We're discussing.
So,
We're discussing it.
Ash, let Ron finish, bro. Ash, please. Let Ron finish so he can explain it to Emperor.
Emperor, we're discussing it because we were discussing the history of promises made and contracts that were made between the peoples, right? So
not recognized. Make sure you have
recognized or not recognized. We're discussing the entire history, and that's the point that we're getting to.
Can we connect it back to like something tangible?
Give me a second, because I'm trying to get to that point, but you keep interrupting me because you want to see what you are trying to do, Emperor. According to how I understand your argument, is you're trying to use modern day sensibilities to adjudicate modern day sensibilities to adjudicate past realities. And the problem with that is that you can't say the contracts that were written and signed, and even if the promises weren't necessarily kept, are not legally binding between two parties, based off of
Emperor, he's not talking about you. He's talking about me. But it's okay.
Yes. No, I'm talking about Emperor, because that's what he's trying to do. And now, as far as
Ron, can you chill? Like, can we pause the conversation a little bit and make an argument that are consistent and structured and speak to the opponent, right? So I'm not making at this point any argument, right? Like whatsoever. At this point, I'm just trying to understand what the conversation that it seems have high stakes informs. What does it matter whether Lawrence of Arabia promised something or didn't promise something, other than that we know that it's a curious history and British reneged on their contract or didn't renege on their contract? What does it inform?
Because the issue that you have right now is that the people
Ron,
that
ask you not to speak for me. Speak for yourself.
Okay, the issue that is had is that your position seems to
I don't have a position, Ron.
You do have a position.
No,
Your
that's
position.
why,
Your position.
Emperor, that's
Your
why I
position
told you
is.
he wasn't
Why
talking to you.
Why do you keep doing this? Your position is that the Palestinians are basically the Native Americans of Palestine, right? The modern day Palestinians are the Native Americans of Palestine. They were living on that land, and therefore
He's talking to me.
have a
But
right
he just
to
doesn't
return
realize it.
self-determination over a particular space of
Ron,
land.
who are you speaking to?
Oh, so
speaking to
Ron,
Ron, I don't
earlier.
hold the position that you just assigned to me. So
Okay,
you're
then
not
what is your
talking to
position?
me. My position is all people, irrespective of their indigeneity, have self-determination rights, which is consistent with international law.
Okay, what is that? What tangibility is that? That people can go anywhere they want to and do whatever they want to?
What do you mean? All people, listen closely, all people have self-determination rights. Self-determination rights are inalienable in international law. International law does not recognize or speak about indigeneity. There is some small areas, but let's ignore that, right? I'm not using the word indigenous. I haven't used the word native in my argument whatsoever. All people, irrespective of anything, have self-determination rights.
And what does that mean? What does that mean tangibly in the argument of Palestine
Tangibly,
versus
that
Israel?
people in Israel, right, in the nation state of Israel, for example, have self-determination rights and can elect their government and determine how they live within the territorial integrity of the country of Israel, right? People in West Bank and Gaza, right, in the so-called occupied Palestinian territories, right, that are recognized by something like 10 countries less than recognize Israel, also have self-determination rights. Those self-determination rights are hampered by the state of Israel and military occupation and other types of encroachment. That is this argument that I'm making, that people are making generally, that international community is making, have no reliance whatsoever on Lawrence of Arabia, or for that matter, Balfour Declaration.
Okay, so wait one second.
All that historical tangent is for the argument of.
So I have a question.
Hold on, Ron. Let him land.
Yeah. So all of this historical tangent misses the mark because it is irrelevant. It is interesting, it is informative, right? But it is irrelevant.
Okay, so can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Quickly. Okay, so did in 2000, okay, do the Palestinians in Israel, in the borders of Israel, have the right and ability to vote for whomever they choose?
They should, yes.
No, the answer is they do. All Israelis.
Well, they should and they do. You asked me a normative question, right?
Okay.
I asked in a normative manner, right?
Okay.
Whether they do or do not, I'm not aware, or
So I have another question for you.
They don't.
So do the Palestinians in Gaza have the ability to have elections?
Well, their rights are hampered. No, and we can blame the Palestinian Authority if that's incorrect. If that's Ron,
how is Israel?
Give me space to answer. You ask me a question and you speak immediately.
I thought you answered. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You asked me a question about specific. It's okay. Thank you. You asked me a question about elections specifically, and I agree with you, right? I think their self-determination are hampered by, let's say, the Palestinian Authority, right? But that's not the only actor that denies themselves the responsibility, right? West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem is under military occupation by Israel. Right? A long-term military occupation that the International Court of Justice has ruled illegal and ordered Israel to cease the occupation immediately and pay reparations for Palestinians, among other.
Yeah, but you're adding.
Hold on, Ron. 1 second.
Ron,
One second, Ron. Emperor, for you. Is it possible for a people to have autonomy. You're familiar with the term autonomy, right? Autonomy. Is it possible for people to have autonomy if they're under military occupation?
No, Christ. Wait 1 second, because you're
No. I'm asking him. I'm asking him a very specific question.
Okay.
Is it
But
possible?
you're interrupting my question.
Is it possible for people to have autonomy if they're under military occupation?
Look, autonomy is. I'll answer. I kind of understand what you're saying, but autonomy is a little bit of vague idea, especially when we're talking about context of law of military occupation and international law. The term for it would be self-determination. So, if the military occupation is conducted legally, right, it is possible for people under military occupation to have some measure of self-determination, right? However, that military occupation has to be justified. It cannot be indefinite, right? It cannot be combined with illegal activities such as settlement building, right? So, like, I'm not going to rule out that there can be a situation where military occupation can be in parallel to some level of rights to self-determination, but the case in West Bank, for example, is beyond any of like good case scenario of military occupation, right? Israel is building settlements. Israel is demolishing buildings of Palestinians. Israel is not granting any building permits to Palestinians. Israel restricts movements of Palestinians, etc., etc., etc. Their self-determination is interfered with to such an extent that, again, the International Court of Justice deems it racial segregation, ECRD Article 3 violation, which is the specific article is apartheid, right? So
Right.
apartheid is incompatible with either autonomy or self-determination.
So
Exactly.
wait 1 second. So you said a couple of things that I find interesting. So before October 7th, 2023, there were no Israeli military people in Gaza. Right, they were all evacuated. The only thing that was there was a wall that put up a border between what is Gaza and what is Israel. Right, so that is not military occupation.
Right. But
Currently,
were they not running through Palestinians? Were there not a lot of...
Sweet, let him finish. Like, can we... Restore
currently
go
there
ahead.
is military occupation.
Please say you're wrong. Just a matter of... can I ask you to say you're done when you're done?
Yeah, sure.
So one second, real quick, guys. Like, I keep hearing each person interrupt the other. If every time you guys are done with a submission, if you say I land or whatever, something that shows you making a conclusion, and then the next person can go ahead. That way we can hear each person clearly.
My man, Gemini. Goddamn.
So currently, there is a military occupation because of the war, right? The war effort, but that's a different story. But between 2007 and 2023, there was no military occupation. The Gazans and the Gazan citizens, they had the ability to cast their vote, and they have a leadership which they voted for Hamas. However Hamas got there, they voted for Hamas. That was their governmental situation. In the West Bank, actually, I don't know if anybody here has read Oslo 2, right? I think Emperor probably did, but the West Bank is more complicated, right? So one of the issues that we have is that some of the things that currently happen, including the quote-unquote military occupation of the West Bank and Area C, especially in part in Area B, were agreed upon terms by Mahmoud Abbas and as well as Yasser Arafat. So if you read through Oslo 2 and you see the security provisions and the reality, including the settlements that are there, they were agreed to in these negotiations, which they had in Oslo, as they say. So if that, and also the Palestinians in areas A and B, which are allotted to them and agreed upon in Oslo 2, the Oslo Accords, they have their own elections when it is permissible. Unfortunately, Mahmoud Abbas has been their sole leader for the past 20-something years. So did they not have self-determination when they elected him in the first place?
Are you talking about the West Bank?
Yes. Yes, the West Bank.
The first point was Gaza, right?
Yeah, my first.
Yeah, so Gaza, so occupation is not military occupation. The test of military occupation under international law would be ability to exercise effective control, right? The military occupation, or occupation in short, right, is not a binary. It's not 0 to 1. Absence of settlements does not necessarily mean absence of occupation, right? The occupation is weaker than it is in West Bank, or what we were talking before October 7, right? But it is still an occupation. Occupation is proportional term, right? So according to, again, International Court of Justice, Gaza, before the events of October 7, was occupied because of a blockade, right? Because a lot of daily interactions of Palestinians with the state is mediated through Israeli officials or military personnel, including governmental paperwork, a lot of other stuff, provision of services, water. We can go into details of that. So yes, Gaza was militarily occupied. We can disagree on that point, but this is my position, and not only my position, this is a position that is very quite firm in international law. On the West Bank military occupation is not disputed by Israeli Supreme Court and Israel itself. It is militarily occupied. I already answered the question of elections, irrespective of the nature of government of PA over West Bank, or their authoritarian character or non-authoritarian character. That is not the only source of self-determination, right? Self-determination is primarily a military occupation. We're talking about Israeli behavior rather than Palestinian governance quality. There are many authoritarian states, and there are many states with bad governance, right? The question is that Israel occupies a foreign territory, and in that foreign territory it institutes, through military occupation, a level of control, right, that is, again, according to ICJ, violation of ECHR Article 3, which would be racial segregation and apartheid. That is not through actions of the PA, that is through actions of Israeli government.
Emperor, do you recognize a difference between a militia and a military?
Of course.
Okay, so now, based off of understanding the difference between a militia and a military, when we look at what's happening in Gaza, technically Hamas would not fall under the category of being a military. They would fall under the category, from an international standpoint, of being a militia.
I think that's incorrect. I think that
I'm reading it right now.
That's fine. You can read it right now. But Hamas is its own government, and Hamas is military, however you wish to declare it, as a militia or a military.
You would call it a military wing, but that's no different. That's no different than the militias
in the U.S. Army.
No, not the U.S. Army. Then the militias in Montana calling themselves a military wing of whatever they believe in. It doesn't
Like
mean
the National
it's a
Guard.
military. No, not like the National Guard. It's actually smaller.
So what makes a military military?
Okay,
Yeah,
the military means
Ron, which
go ahead.
there are many arguments on this side, but we can consider both, and they have different merits for different purposes. Ron, which government's military is Hamas, or which state's government is Hamas?
Hamas, the state of Gaza.
There is no state of Gaza.
The question is Gaza a formal state or is it not a formal state?
It's not.
Well, if you're arguing that Hamas is the government,
that Hamas is the government of Gaza,
there is a state.
Say that again.
You're breaking up, Emperor. Say it again.
It's the state of Gaza, right? I'm saying the state of Gaza. You have to tell us that there is such a thing as state of Gaza.
I mean, the question is who has the ability or the right to. I think that the issue is that they haven't declared themselves a state, right? I think it's part of the issue because Gaza, Hamas, and the PLO both have observer seats of observer non-member seats of the United Nations, right? So fine, they may not necessarily be formal states, but I think the relationship is. Wait 1 second. I think that the relationship is that of Puerto Rico and the United States in this matter.
Here's the difference. So here's the thing. Well, the reason why I asked that question is because often we get these talking points where they're like, oh, they only target, we target military sites. We don't target civilian sites. If there's not a formal military and they're a militia, that means that you're targeting civilian sites. You're not targeting military sites.
So you're making a de facto argument.
They don't have an actual military.
They
don't have an actual military.
It's de facto because they aren't a formalized state. Therefore, they aren't a formalized military. Even though they have military grade weapons and military grade power, therefore you cannot attack them as if they are military. Just because they don't have that.
That's not what I'm saying, Ron. That's not what I'm saying, Ron. What I am saying, if you want clarification, I can give you the clarification. What I am saying, though, Ron, is this. Because of the fact that they are a militia, not a military, that means that y'all are the media in general is able to paint a broad brush about anywhere that's attacked and say that that's where Hamas is. They're depicting them as a military, but who are they a military of? They're
a military of Gaza and Gaza. Listen, the Hamas is a recognized government, right? Hamas is a recognized.
Is Gaza recognized as a state?
Hamas is a recognized government of Gaza. Hamas is the recognized government. Hamas is the recognized government internationally as of Gaza. They are the government of Gaza. They function as such. They present paperwork and administer as such. They have military grade weapons as such, and they interact with other countries as such.
Right? The cartel has military grade weapons. It doesn't make them a state. So here's the thing.
But you're saying that a military is only a military when it represents a state, but that's a false statement.
That's actually the international understanding. What are you talking about?
Okay,
that's literally the international understanding.
So you're saying that any group of people who formalize themselves into some sort of random military, all right, for lack of a better term, fine. So you cannot treat it. So you're saying that you cannot assault all
folks. Let's allow other people to speak.
Wait, I'm trying to understand the argument here. All members of a military that do not represent a state are militias. Therefore, all those individual members are civilians.
You cannot have a military without a state. Like that's.
And I disagree with you. So they're terrorists.
With me, but you can't.
So the answer is that they're terrorists.
Oh, now they're terrorists instead of a militia.
Armed group.
If you attack people unwarrantedly, then I guess you're a terrorist, right?
The term is known. The term is, I mean, armed group, but let other people speak. Yeah, like we're in another tangent.
Hey, thank you, Gemini, for letting us rock for that long, by the way. And thank you to Miss Patty and Miss First Lady as well.
And everybody else that had to weather all of that. Thank you. Thank them too, Craig.
Thank all of them.
Yeah. Send them some cash app, bro, because I don't know where else you can go and just.
I don't know what the cash app though, but sweet.
Well, send them some flowers or something, bro, because that was painful, man. We was talking about 1947 and secular Zionism, and then Ryan just takes it.
You're the people that brought up those questions, right? I was trying to
I didn't bring up none of that nonsense, bro. I didn't bring up none of that nonsense, bro. That was Crisis and Emperor and what the hell ever, bro. I got thrown down because you wouldn't answer the question what we were talking.
I was just trying to answer the question about the Messian and ushering in the Messianism.
Yeah,
I wasn't even talking about it messing.
No, you weren't. Crisis was. This is what
exactly, bro. Like that. Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole, bro. Good job.
Yeah. Well, it's a false claim that a lot of Messianic people or people that focus on Messianism focus on.
He brought up the 12. He brought up the what was it called? The 12er.
12
All 12 rows from there, bro. It went down that road. Good job.
Well, you should look it up because the 12ers are really in control of the Republic.
I ain't busting your balls. I'm just stating the facts, bro. Messer. I mean, when 12er. Then Ron ran, bro, and here we are. Just I left a few times, came back.
You got it.
Maybe the room is excited to hear that. I don't know. I'll listen.
Well, sweet, you had your opportunity.
Not to talk about 12ers and all that shit and military or not a military or I never brought. Don't let me own that shit. I know what I like to talk about, especially when I see a title. I try to stay focused.
Back to your point, though, sweet. Go ahead. You got it.
Nah, bro. Shit, I done had 1,000 trillion thoughts since y'all just went down that road. I was in. Don't let me interrupt the fun. Go back. I'm sure everybody's enjoying your conversation.
The only point that me and Emperor were trying to bring up was the fact that this is not a fair exchange that's happening.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with Ron. Ron's intention wasn't that, though, bro. Ron took over all that.
It's the state going against the militia. That's what's happening right now.
Great. Beautiful. Meanwhile, we got how many days left on this 2 weeks?
Yeah, states and going against militias, it happens all the time, actually. There are plenty of militias in countries where the countries are next to countries that are in fights together. It happens very frequently.
And can you see how that's like nowhere in the title? States versus militias or militaries. Can you see how that's going down into some weeds that I promise you, put that title to the title of the room and see how many people show up. State military.
Isn't that a product of decentralization now? And would you say the world's becoming more decentralized? Absolutely, Elif. It's easier to break down the individuals than it is to break down the states.
But also, by the way, it's a good thing that the world is becoming decentralized.
This morning, Putin came out and said that he's going to intervene in the war if it goes on too long.
That was always the plan.
He needs to focus on finishing his own.
Countries operate in coalitions. They don't operate operate in individualistic states.
Which is the very reason why when America decides, when Trump decides, Iran, to go along with what you know is going to happen, it's a geopolitical world. Yeah, so other countries, Iran's very vested in what the hell happens. Russia's very vested. Yeah, so now to me we're getting back to some real conversation about how the whole world is going to get drawn in, whatever 2005, 1950, whatever you're talking about, the whole world's about to be drawn into some drama behind Netanyahu and Trump. That's what we're about to witness. However you justify it, Ron, or whoever justifies it, that is what's about to happen. And guess who's cool with that? Obviously, the IDF and Netanyahu.
I don't think the IDF.
Hold on, Ron. We're gonna try to apply some rules here about just not cutting somebody off, bro. I've been quiet as hell.
It's very difficult.
Keep cooking, sweet. Keep cooking.
See, Ron got to come with the sly remarks. That's difficult.
Sweet, keep cooking.
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying, but he's good at his tactics. Him and Normal are good at. I don't.
Baby, just talk, please.
I'm trying to, but nobody checks Ron. You noticing this?
I'm here to make sure the conversation goes accordingly. Go ahead and give your submission.
I'm trying, bro. I don't let my blood pressure get all high. So I'll just shut up for a while because once he understands that, man, I don't want to match that nuclear energy and just to have a conversation, man.
You have talked quite a bit today, so please stop whining.
See that crazy talk, Gemini. Have you heard me talk since you've been in the room?
Hey, yo, Sweet.
He's been in the room.
That's what you were saying, bro.
Sweet, go ahead, give your submission.
Yeah, I thought so. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. And when I get the spirit again to talk, watch. I'll come and say something, and then Ron, watch how Ron cuts me.
Nobody's gonna cut nobody off. I'm gonna hear it.
Ron just cut me off, Gemini.
Got you. Who's about
you got the dog in here now. He about to make sure he don't bark on anybody who cutting people off.
Yeah, I just want to facilitate a good conversation where everybody can be heard. That's all. Now nobody want to talk.
Nah, that's hilarious, right? Look, hey. Nah, but LF, you're right. LF, you're 100% right. And LF, do you see the greater play at hand? Do you see what happened? So like when sometimes somebody will give you a quote, but they won't give you what was said before or after to give you context. So when you're looking at the context, look at what happened before. Remember, about a month ago, Trump tried to divorce himself from Netanyahu and from Putin. And look at what the escalation happened to be. And then now he's coming back in and then applying more pressure on one side than the other. You know what I'm saying? Like this, I don't know how many of y'all have read The Art of the Deal, but everything that this dude does is literally in his damn book. Literally in his book. He's applying the pressure now because of the fact that he's always wanted a certain outcome. But I'll leave it at that.
For Christ, do you think Netanyahu knows how to play Trump? You think he read the book? The Art of the Deal?
I think he might have read the book, but I'm not really sure. I haven't come to a complete conclusion as to whether or not he's smarter, because Netanyahu is not exactly the sharpest.
Is he playing America?
Sharpest tool.
Is Netanyahu working America for his benefit? How about that?
Maybe not him specifically, but the IDF is not stupid, and Mossad specifically is not stupid.
Okay, so Mossad and the IDF, are they playing America? All Americans taxed?
Oh yeah, Mossad has been playing America for like the last 40, 50, 60 years. You know what I mean? Since the Bay of Pigs, like they've been playing America for a long time.
So a good American should just do what? Just sit back and say nothing.
So I want to point out something, Miss Sweets.
One second, real quick, Ron. I've read The Art of the Deal, and a couple times actually. And one of the things that he focuses on and hyper focuses on, and he used several aspects of that on a regular basis, but there's certain aspects that he hyper focuses on. And the one that I've noticed that he uses the most, especially this term, is boost perception at all costs. Right? Basically, I don't want to say lie, but I will say embellish to your benefit. And I think that's what's happening here.
He's pushing us to the brink, even though it's not really at the brink. Is that what you're saying?
Or making us feel that way.
So Gemini, it's an interesting point you bring up because it also goes to how he selected his cabinet secretaries. You notice how much more media savvy they are than his last cabinet?
Very true. Controlling the perception.
He definitely shows people who know how to guide the narrative. Because if we look at it now, we're thinking that we're on the brink of World War III.
Well, Trump's initial choices were quite good, right? Because he had that girl that worked on Obama's team, right, as both the political advisor and the digital coordinator. And then he had Cambridge Analytica, right? So I think they just did this one, they just refined it. Oh, and with the, of course, with the teal component.
Gemini, you remember when he said to the Ukrainian president, "You have no cards"?
Yeah.
Was that not right out of his book?
Unfortunately.
That's what I'm saying, yo. Like we're just sitting through a whole fucking stage show. Like this is Trump 101.
Well, and you have to realize it though, right? Because, Macron talked to Zelensky afterwards, and Zelensky is in a much better shape with Trump now. So he learned from that situation.
I want to say he learned. I think that the way he handled him affected public perception, his public perception. Like, you remember how they weren't very receptive to him. I forget which event it was, but they gave the other gentleman a standing ovation. Like, I really think it didn't do him any benefits. I don't see how that helped in any way, shape, or form. And it definitely didn't lead to anything that helped Russia and the UK come together on any level, as you can see now. Like, he even realizes that he is being led astray and that Russia has no intentions of stopping its advances. So I don't see how that helps CEO. I just don't.
So if you think about how bad it was after Zelensky left the White House in terms of the perception on the right side of the aisle and some of the criticism of Zelensky, what I'm saying is that, outfit? Yeah, his outfit and also his temperament, right? Those were the two critiques, his outfit, his temperament. And so over that next month, he ended up doing a lot of things differently. He did the mineral deal, he wrote a letter to Trump and all this and that, communicated a little bit differently, and he's in way better shape now in terms of his access to the White House and perception.
So you're saying Trump whipped him into shape, basically?
No, I'm saying Macron whipped him into shape, not Trump. Macron.
Yeah, it was definitely
because Macron gave him advice on how to handle Trump after.
And Gemini, do you remember what Vance said to Zelensky when they were in the White House and they did that thing in front of the press? And
vaguely.
He jumped out of nowhere and said, "Y'all need to be grateful."
Yeah.
Like, yo, he jumped all the way out of pocket with that shit. Just jumped out and was like, "Y'all need to be grateful that essentially this war would be over if we let Russia do what they really want to do."
But also, you got to remember that UK acts as if just their location acts as a buffer between the UN and Russia, right? So we don't want them to be overrun because even though they're not a part of the UN, they're strategically positioned to be an ally.
You mean we're not a part of NATO?
NATO, that's what I meant to say. NATO. That's what I meant to say. Exactly. Right. But even though they're not a part of NATO, they're strategically positioned to be an ally to NATO because of their location and the fact that they are not pro-Russia, obviously.
So Gemini, check this out, right? If you have your land and you're raising all your dogs on your land, and I decide I want to raise dogs on the border of your land, But we already had an agreement that I shouldn't have my dogs so close to your land, and then I do it anyway. You're not gonna feel some type of way?
Man, I get what you're saying, but if we want to look at the way Russia moves historically, they make an agreement and break an agreement, and then reconvene and do it all over again. They make promises and break promises, and then reconvene and do it all over again.
And we don't do the same?
No, not to the same degree as Russia. Nah, we don't.
We put missiles on their border, CEO. What are you talking about?
We put missiles on Russia's border? What are you saying?
Yeah,
I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you remember in the 90s, because I get the impression that you and I are close in age. If you remember the 90s, when they had the agreement originally, we weren't supposed to have missiles that close to their border. But we funded a regime change, and with that regime change came our ability to then claim that country wants to be a part of NATO, and then us moving in missiles closer to the border of Russia. That goes against the agreement. Like, if me and you have the agreement, but then I use a third party to try to go around me and use agreement, you still gonna feel some type of way. Because you're gonna feel like I broke the agreement with you.
I think the thing that changed was Vladimir Putin.
Well, it wasn't just Putin, right? Because remember, him and George W. Bush got along at first, and George W. Bush said he could see in his soul all this and that. It was, let Putin tell it. It was when we decided to go into Iraq. That's when the schism started for Putin. Let him tell it. That's what he...
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you, CEO. I always thought that he was lying about that. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I felt like Putin was capping on that part. It had nothing to do with Iraq. You know what I mean? When you listen to Putin's speeches and you translate them shits, he talks about Libya. He talks about expansionism. I've mentioned this before about the game of Weiqi. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't chess or checkers. It's Weiqi. And in the game of Weiqi, it's all about strategic encirclement, controlling the board.
Well, he might have been expecting an invitation to join us in Iraq. That might have been.
So, like Christ says, you're exactly right, and I think it's awesome that you followed it up with the kind of whole encirclement doctrine, right? Like, our thing from, right, putting anti-ICBM missile batteries as close as they could to Russia. Basically, like, you shoot some shit up, and we'll shoot the shit you shoot up right down. It basically, like, makes your nuclear deterrent not a nuclear deterrent. That's like a big threat. Clinton started it. Bush cranked it into full gear, putting Patriot missile batteries and all kinds of anti-ICBM batteries in Poland and getting him as close to Russia as he possibly could, because we're trying to, like, encircle them. The whole point about Ukraine being strategic to us is our thing is cut you off from the sea, right? That was, Russia and the Tsars, that was like their big kind of claim to fame, was becoming a power in the Black Sea. The Black Sea is like a warm water port that allows Russia access to the rest of the world. When the Tsars took control of Crimea and all that, like that, we're talking back in the 1800s, that was like their big strategic boon, or like big strategic win for them. The USSR, obviously the whole Cold War happened, but at the end of the Cold War, us trying to cut them off from the Black Sea, like that was our major goal. And like, that's what we do. That's what we did with Iraq. That's what we did with Iran, Kuwait. Like, that is Iraq's way to the sea. Without Kuwait, Iraq couldn't get to the sea. Like, that was the big thing that we wanted to do, was cut Iraq off from the sea via Kuwait and support for them. Like, this is our thing. Repeatedly, time and time again, conflict after conflict, what we do is we come in and we get you away from the fucking ocean. We're doing it right now. Burkina Faso and the Ivory Coast. Like, the Ivory Coast is Burkina Faso's way to the sea, right? As soon as Burkina Faso fucking falls into military control, Under Traore, what do? We got people over there cutting deals with Ivory Coast to keep them from being able to get their shit to the sea. This is like what we do. We make sure you can't get to the fucking ocean. And that's what Ukraine's importance is to block Russia's access to the sea. So like, and this is kind of like has been our game since the collapse of the Soviet Union, right? That's why Ukraine was so fucking important. And that's why kind of keeping them contained and keeping them encircled, keeping them away from the sea was so important. And that's why that's like Russia's biggest strategic win in the Ukraine war was regaining the control of Crimea and being able to reassert their access to the warm water ports of the Black Sea again. Like that's what it's all about. Like it's just all about
take it a step further.
Control
Take it a step further. What does Iran control?
What does Iran control?
Mm-hmm. What canal do they currently control?
Oh, like the Strait of Hormuz, like the Persian Gulf and all that shit.
And the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
So this is all. That's why I said it's all just a play.
Wait, you said that Iran controls the Suez Canal?
I believe Iran is. I guess the Suez Canal, right?
No,
My bad. I'm tripping. No, I'm tripping. It's the Straits of Hormuz. You're right.
So, good afternoon, Patty, First Lady, Dr. H.E., Lisa. Y'all outside or y'all sleeping?
A little bit of both.
Sleeping outside is crazy.
After last night, Lisa, I don't know.
What'd y'all do last night? Oh, wait, I thought a room was open at 4 a.m. How late y'all go?
Was it?
Yeah.
I was in here. If I wasn't in here, I was knocked out. My PTR was partying, but not me.
You just gotta go listen to the replays. Anyway, what's going on? But why y'all stop the conversation if y'all wasn't gonna talk? What's going on? I hate when y'all do that.
We've been talking. I was just saying hi.
Well, stop the conversation and then ain't got shit else.
Go back to it. Go back.
Yeah, but now how am I supposed to get it started? I didn't stop it. You gotta get it started.
You said you pushed pause.
No, I did not. He pressed
I'm
pause.
saying you were saying he pushed pause.
Correct.
Yeah.
Go ahead, CEO. I don't understand why you still look. What's going on?
She's like, is this thing on? Is this?
It was on, CEO. We can hear you.
Yeah, so Iran and Russia, yeah. All right, now go back to y'all.
I'm just saying it's all about strategic encirclement.
Yeah.
It's all about strategic encirclement.
And
So,
No first lady or delegated.
Prices, check it out, and the rest of the room. In 2022, there was a Louisiana Tech Research Group. They prepared a report that said that the U.S. is preparing for limited nuclear engagement.
Yeah, all that means is tactical nukes because they know that the Moabs are not going to be able to go deep enough to blow up the facilities that they want to blow up. That's all that means.
And possibly even extending that, the extended deterrence that they're practicing with NATO, pretty much amplifying that.
Yeah, but LF, I want everybody in this room to understand something. They're never going to put off a nuke in Iran, because if they put off a nuke in Iran, it means death to the majority of the Middle East. They share are y'all familiar with a water table? A water table is what's under the ground, the aquifers that are under the ground. If they did that, they would literally be sentencing a large swath of the population to death. And some of that population will be the population that you just recently saw Trump do a world tour for. You know what I mean? For those of you who don't understand the terrain of Iran is almost like a gigantic ass version of Las Vegas because it's surrounded by mountains. It's in a bowl. But what they do share,
With that said, sorry to interrupt you, but just to inject, what you're saying right now, doesn't that sort of give rise to authoritarian governments?
Authoritarian governments?
Or the authoritarian governments?
Yeah,
Giving
if
us
you
a
read the book,
justification for them?
if you read the book Economic Hitman, we don't give a fuck about letting authoritarian governments come into power as long as we can control them. We don't give a fuck about whether or not they're authoritarian or not. That whole myth of democracy, you can throw that out the window. We don't give a fuck about anybody being a democracy. That's the reason.
Man, shit, to make it even deeper, Trump don't give a fuck about us being a democracy. What are you talking about?
What are you talking? Exactly, Gemini. Exactly. But go ahead, LF.
No, I was just connecting, saying that, there's already a lattice around the world of these authoritarian governments. Strengthen what they have.
I'll say this.
Democracy only exists as long as all the people agree that it's a democracy. The government, the people, the military, all of those things have to agree that everybody's in a democracy together. But it's a very fragile situation, as we can see.
Well put, Ron. Did y'all hear that latest? I don't know if it's the latest, but it's a recent hot mic of Trump, and he was discussing something with someone, and they were talking about how the other country's people listens to their leader and does this every bidding. And Trump said, "That's how I want my people." And that word is so
Trump was bugging
He was bugging. 1 second crisis, because I think those words are so telling. Because if we're talking about the Constitution, it's not my people, it's the people, right? The people, like that's who he's supposed to work. But when you start saying my people,
he said my people instead of the people.
Mindset. Yeah.
Okay. I see what you're trying to say now. I didn't catch that. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that video clip again. But yeah, I didn't catch that. But I mean, is that so far out of the realm of the personality that we're referring to?
No, it's fitting and telling. It's both.
It's 100% in alignment with what we talking.
Yeah, I mean, do y'all believe?
Find that clip. I'll drop it into the chat so y'all can check it out.
Let me ask y'all a question, because FDR was the last person that they allowed to run for a third term. You know what I mean? And you also know that according to the law, if there's a war, the sitting president doesn't necessarily have to leave if there's a war, especially if it's like around the time of an election. The sitting president doesn't have to leave in the middle of that war.
That's right, because it would cause too much chaos.
Yeah. Right, that's the reason why FDR was allowed to get a third term.
Pretty similar to Netanyahu's mindset of like, as long as you can keep drama going, then nobody will want him or allow him to leave, because the only one that knows the chaos or what's being created is that person. So
the one who's already in it.
I'm not saying it does work like that, bro. You don't have to come off the mic to interject and interrupt.
Hold on, sweet. I have a question.
I'm talking about what Ron said.
Hold on, let's speak.
I know you are.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sweet.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man. So, yeah, again, we just having this conversation about, again, the idea is very much being played out, again, like by Netanyahu, even though the government structure and this and that is different. There's a universal agreement that if all hell is breaking loose, you don't change leadership midstream. It's like, well, shit, the only way it could possibly continue to follow any structure at all is you have to now, in an authoritarian way, let the person that's running it say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And that's the point of creating martial law or an insurrection act, or it's creating, like in California with the governor or whatever, it's creating this sense, they got nuclear bombs. It's by creating that propagandist idea, then you get into, okay, well, go ahead, okay, everybody release the keys to the kingdom and just let this person just run it however they want to, because they know whatever the hell they want to do. And that's that's where you have that concept, whether it's in any particular country's edict or mandate, or whether it's a very well understood concept that, and that's what everybody's been saying about Netanyahu for quite some time. That's why I brought that in. I hate to spend too much time trying to defend that thought, but I was just doing that because of Ron. But back to the idea that creating this sense of martial law and this kind of sense of that, it allows, especially in the American democracy situation, guys, to usurp. That's what the attempt is. Again, back to the governorship. So, but yeah, as it relates to the situation, it's like, well, I have to do this because I've been authorized, mandated to be the leader. But what's crazy, I'll pass the mic on this. What's crazy about what Trump is doing, and everybody's calling him on it, Congress, and a lot of people are like, bro, you ran. Now, immigration, that's one thing. You definitely, okay, cool, you can make that argument. I got to come in, clean it all up, get rid of everybody that's illegal. No problem in that sense. But I'm the non-war president. You're in war with Russia, Ukraine, because I wasn't on my watch. I can come in day one, stop it. This idea of, no, but we're not going to fund more money to Israel, and no, Americans don't with that, or even funding or going into another war as American troops. American is no longer, well, what's being on the table for the next 2 weeks as I pass the mic back to Gemini and the rest of the room, Crisis. What's now on the table is the idea that no, America directly, because there's no other people on the planet that have this B-1 bomber and have to use it over and over and over to accomplish, Fordo? Accomplish the annihilation of that nuclear facility.
Just to be clear real quick before y'all continue, I just want to be clear about this. There was no law against term limits before, I think, like 50 or 51. When Truman got in, it was a tradition. It was a tradition set by George Washington for presidents to leave, and so there not to be like an imperial presidency and whatnot. And so that's just something that presidents did. Nothing was preventing anybody from running for a third term. Roosevelt was kind of like his first terms were about the Great Depression. People enjoyed the way he handled that. He kind of built the welfare state, and everybody loved that. And his second 2 terms were about World War II, and the way he handled that, and the way he air quotes saved us from fascism and this and that. But after that, we got into gear, and I think it's the 20-something amendment. That's one of the most recent amendments was term limits. So that's why we have term limits, and that's why if Trump tried anything, there's nothing in our law that says if you're a president and there's some heavy shit going on, you can run again. So that's just blatantly an illegal move for him to try to run for a third term.
Ron, can you do me a favor? Can you pronounce the word that I put in the chat for us? If you're still there, Ron.
I'm looking for it. Those comments Bakara.
Okay, what does that mean?
Can you say that again, please?
Milhamat Bakara.
And to your understanding,
I some sort of way.
To your understanding, what does that mean?
The War of Bakara?
No. It means, hold on, Mark, I'm about to put it back again just so you can make sure you're saying you're reading the word I'm referring to. It's this word. Okay. The word means to be in opposition. It's the devil's advocate. Now, I'm going to extrapolate this from that phrase to be the devil.
Okay.
Right. So it's to be the devil's advocate. This is the way that Israel runs their government. That when they all vote on some shit, if everybody's in agreement, at least one person has to actually disagree with them and give the reason why.
Wait, where did you get that this is the way the Israeli government works?
Where did you get that definition? What's going on? What language?
It's actually
That's
right
from
there.
Hebrew, but I'm trying to understand where he gets this idea from.
I'm about to give it to you. It literally means
Department of Control.
It's their version.
It means arguing against. You know what I mean? So the thing is they require somebody to argue against what everybody is in unanimous decision of. Now, there's something else that we've all heard of, something called the Samson plan. Essentially, this is where the idea of Israel not declaring themselves to be a nuclear state, even though everybody knows they're a nuclear state, comes into play. Because if they ever felt like they were at jeopardy to that degree, they would just be able to go full on, you know what I mean, and go Wolverine with everybody, you know what I mean. But this is what we're looking at. I think that based off of reading Trump's book, I think that they just want to push us to the brink to bring us into alignment. They want the entire world to feel like as if World War III is imminent. Look at what y'all been seeing. Like, I work in tech. You know how many briefings we've gotten? As a matter of fact, yesterday I got a briefing about Google being breached. By the way, Google was breached this past weekend. Make sure you change your password.
It wasn't just Google. It was Google, Meta, and a whole. But it's the largest documented breach.
Yeah.
Password.
So make sure you change your password.
Change your password and pick something new that you haven't used before too.
Right, and I would suggest to you that you use quotes, movie quotes, television quotes, whatever quote, and just substitute certain letters for characters and numbers. But that's neither here nor there.
And if you want to feel super safe, send me your passwords. I'll save them for you. You're good.
Yo, Gemini, you're a beast. You're a beast. But yeah, like the idea
if you use Super Saiyan as a password, it'll make the other computer blow up.
The idea is that if I can't have it, you can't have it either. And sweet, to the point you were making earlier, when you weren't sure how I was going to tie this all together, this is how I'm tying it all together. Because they like we're dealing with individuals who are purposely pushing us in a certain direction, and they're trying to play it off like as if this is manifested instead of manufactured, when we can clearly, those of us who are intelligent enough to see it, we can see that it's manufactured, not manifested.
Crisis, I never had anything about you putting it all together. I'm not sure where that thought came from, but for the record, but...
Oh, it might have been you. My bad.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, it's not a big thing. It's not a big thing. I'm just for the record, but because I personally have no doubt as to how this all ties together.
No, I got you, bro. But that's what's happening right now. I don't think we're gonna go to war. But my bad, sister. Sister, go ahead. Sister, you got it.
So I have a question, and it's a couple of questions first. So I don't know do we have any Hebrew speakers in the room? Because I'm kind of challenging your translation on that in terms of the literal translation of the phrase and the function of the unit that it describes. So I'd like to know if we have any Hebrew speakers in the room who can help me with that part. And then, but my second thing is, how did you get from this idea of a devil's advocate unit whose job is to, the job of the unit is to challenge policy, to offer alternative perspectives, and to push the boundary of thinking around political policies and actions? How did you get from there to, if I can't have it, you can't have it? I missed something in that buildup. So can you clarify what that middle part is relative to Israel and its military moves? Thank you.
Right, you're talking about second base. So the devil's unit wasn't always something that was a generally known thing. However, the Samson option was a generally known thing.
The what option?
Samson.
SIP or SA?
Samson. You know, like Samson, like the one from the Bible.
That's
Samson.
why I'm asking you how to spell it, because I'm not getting the vowel. Okay, Samson. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so what's the Samson op?
Okay, the Samson option is a zero-sum game. That's where if their back's against the wall, they just use what they have. That's what the Samson option is. Now, somebody earlier today.
Okay, hold on. I just want to make sure I'm following. Sorry. So is this Samson option, is that like the unit where it exists? Because the unit you're describing, that's like from the 70s, right? In Israeli government. So this Samson option, is that a policy or is that somebody's explanation of practice? It's an official.
I just put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a strategy.
I just put it in the chat.
Yeah. I'm just trying to make sure. I'm trying to discern.
No, I understand, sister. Like, I'm with you.
If that's an official policy or somebody's description of Israeli policy.
We gotta talk, bro. I learned about that in school.
Right, so they
What is going on? Wait a minute.
Hold on, Dr. AG.
Y'all play a lot. Okay.
Dr. AG, it's described as a policy.
Okay, it's described. Sure. That's what I'm trying to. And let me just say why I'm asking these questions, right? Because sometimes I know that political scientists and activists, they create like these phrases and names for things and they describe them and then they come into the popular conversation as if it's an actual policy, whereas it's a theoretical framework that someone's created to explain practice. So that's what I'm trying to discern, because the unit you're describing is an actual thing that the Israelis created after the Yom Kippur War. But I'm trying to find out if the Samson thing is an actual policy within the Israeli government, or is it somebody's political assessment of how the Israelis have been moving and operating? I'm trying to make that distinction.
It's not official. It's not. Israel won't tell you, yeah, we follow the Samson, like the Samson option is a thing, but they don't even admit that they have nukes. But the Samson option is literally like, if our back's up against the wall, everybody dies.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that was option.
What does back against the wall mean? Can you define it? That's a very vague statement.
Yeah. So
hold on. I don't want y'all to derail. I do not want y'all to redirect y'all's focus to CEO, respectfully, CEO, away from my question, which is very specific. And so thank you, CEO, for clarifying that statement doesn't make sense, because if you are going, so it's like somebody's what is that? Yeah, I don't even understand what that even means.
Okay.
I'll go back and review in the chat.
I know. This is what you're not getting, sir. I know it comes from a book.
Okay.
What I'm asking you is, is that
yes, by all accounts.
Hold on. Let me take a breath for a second, because my reading of it is, as a policy, right? There's no thing called the Samson option. What Hirsch is describing is how over time it appears that this is the method or the means or processing that the Israelis go through in making their military and political decisions, right?
Yeah.
And he has named it that. That's what I'm trying to get to.
No, he didn't name it that. This has been discussed, and intelligence, like, this is a thing. Like, Israel's never admitted to having nukes. We don't know that they have nukes.
I don't want to go to the nuke conversation. That's something different.
The Samson Directive is literally about nukes. It's about, like, if it comes to, like, us not living and our enemies living, like, we will kill ourselves and all of them, and nobody lives. So it's not an official directive, like just like the Hannibal directive.
It's a military doctrine.
Yeah,
it's
that's
a military doctrine.
Where is this?
But the Hannibal,
straight up a military doctrine.
Come on, dude, chill out. The Hannibal directive is also not something that's official and not published as like official Israeli strategy. But we all see them implementing the Hannibal directive, willing to kill their own civilians, their own soldiers.
Okay, now you're
prevent
speaking.
them from capture and being used against them.
Now you're speaking my point. You're speaking my point, and I know it's a subtle point that in conversations like this doesn't really matter. But you've given me what I wanted. Thank you.
But if I can,
Go ahead.
This thought. It details the history
No,
of
please. I don't need it.
Okay, can I talk to other people in the room?
No, because the question was mine, and I asked it to a specific person, and I was looking for specific details, right?
Did you get the answer you were looking for, Dr.
Yes,
AG?
I did. Yeah, I don't want it to go. I don't want it to go into some. I don't know where. I'm good.
Yeah, Dr. AG.
So then CEO wanted to follow up. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Crisis.
No, I'm just saying this, Dr. AG, if, as I put it in the chat as well, if that explanation doesn't give you what you're looking for, I have other articles as well.
Oh yeah, I know what it is. I just wanted to clarify that. I just wanted that clarification. I gotcha.
Yeah, I mean.
And I do know, just for the record, for people who don't like what's his name? Oh God, not a dude. The dude who wrote the book, Hirsch, right? He didn't go to Israel, but he did interview a former Israeli intelligence person, or somebody who said they worked for Israeli intelligence, like for the book. So, I mean, I knew that, but I just wanted that level of clarity. That's all.
No, I just want.
So, sorry, CEO. Go.
Yeah, I just want the description of when this imperative would be used. So could you go ahead and describe that scenario?
What scenario? What are you talking
about? When you're going to operate the Samson initiative or whatever, that Samson option. When would the Samson option be used?
Yom Kippur War.
No, there wasn't. It was used. What are we talking about?
No, they were going to use it at the Young.
Am I allowed to speak on it or no? Okay.
They didn't use it, so that's not a good one. So when they use it, go ahead.
Please
Situation where
Stop
Israel
interrupting.
does not end at the end of whatever happens. If Israel is not a state anymore, and it doesn't mean under nuclear threat, it means at any point like Egypt, Syria comes in, militarily takes over Israel. Israel's no longer a state. The Palestinians get their own state, become strong, and end up like moving to control the entire, like anything that is any situation where Israel does not exist at the end, everybody dies.
I'll take that long pause. I'd be scared to talk.
Wait a minute. Oh my God.
I don't know what my voice does.
Oh my God, guy. Quit interrupting. Jesus.
Oh my God,
you're exhausting.
Interrupting? Fuck. Oh,
yes. He was explaining something. And how do you know CEO didn't have a follow-up? You just came right in.
Asked me to talk. That's how I know.
Yes, we
asked me to go.
He can go.
Okay, God, Jesus.
Thank you. Good.
And shut up, James. Yes, I'm a woman, and I'm a well-read woman too. Don't play with me.
Okay.
Go ahead, sweet.
Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate you. And so, this idea that Israel would launch a massive nuclear retaliatory strike if the state itself is being overrun, just as the biblical figure Samson is said to have pushed apart the pillars of a Philistine temple, bringing down the roof and killing himself and thousands of Philistines who had gathered to see him humiliated.
That is a lazy explanation.
Well, I didn't want to. I'm sorry, bro.
Specific example. Like the other guy at least was getting close. He said if Egypt and Syria took them over or whatever, right? Okay, like
I'm
so.
sorry to meet your standard. I'm sorry, my intellect is lazy. I'm sorry.
All right, so you're fine. So let me see if I can understand it. So in some scenario where I guess the U.S. is completely, has no ability to do anything. Decapitated. Thank you. The U.S. and Europe is decapitated, and Egypt and Syria and Russia are taking over Israel. Then we'll use some nukes. Is that basically what it is?
Yeah, and it's not for the whole world. It's for the region that they're in. Basically, if they're not able to exist in that region, they're gonna make sure that the whole region is gone.
There's one more nuance to it, though. It also involves signaling the nuclear threat as well. And that's where they used it in the 6-Day War and the Yom Kippur War.
But see, help me understand.
They had nukes then? What year was this?
Yeah, I mean...
What year was it? What was that, 67?
1967, yeah.
And they had nukes then?
When did Kennedy die?
So in Yom Kippur, they armed 13 nuclear warheads. So,
and real quick, LF, let Lonzo speak, because he just brought up a very good point about when did Kennedy die. Because Kennedy died because of the fact that Israel was trying to get a nuke,
right.
And they had espionage their way into getting the information on how to build a nuke. So go ahead and let Lonzo cook.
I mean, a lot of people said that there was like a conspiracy, right? Until that got declassified, and you saw, Israel all over that, right? Or Israeli figures, names all over it. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is something there.
Yeah,
the United States government is leaning that direction. I mean, who am I to say anything otherwise?
It sounds like
Kennedy was pressing Israel
and also to
allow us to inspect their nuclear facilities, to like come on record about what they had, this and that, and they were adamantly against it. Ben Gurion, who was essentially like the dude who created Israel and all, like the first prime minister, that dude, he was forced to resign because Kennedy was saying like, look, we will withdraw all of our military, strategic, and financial support from you guys if you guys don't put yourselves on record, allow us to come in and inspect your nuclear facilities. You got to remember, Kennedy was like vehemently against nuclear proliferation, and he saw the problems that would create, so he was pressing them hardcore. Ben Gurion had to resign over that, and then the next guy came in, and that is by like all conspiracy theory accounts. Can't remember what the next prime minister was after him, but he was the guy who implemented like the kind of us against you Israeli strategy. Like we are really alone in this, and like we just need to use the U.S. to strategically to use the U.S. strategically in order to achieve our own supremacy and our own sovereignty over here, to not let us hold our help over their head. And then then from that comes the, Mossad, using the Mossad to infiltrate the U.S. and this and that, and Jack Ruby, the dude who shot, what's his name, after he killed Kennedy. That's where that whole conspiracy comes from, though. It's like people are basically saying it comes from Kennedy wanting them to give up their nukes.
What was Ben Gurion's full name?
I don't know. What was his first name?
Because the person that they're saying came after him was another Ben Gurion, but it was David.
Levi Eshkol was his name.
Levi Eshkol is the person who came after him. Yeah.
So right.
So, one other thing about that Samson option, correct me if I'm wrong, it targeted non-nuclear adversaries as well, right?
Well, yeah, the Samson thing isn't like a response to a nuclear threat. Like, it's not like if nukes are used against us, we will use nukes. That's just like standard mutually assured destruction game theory. This is like if dude was right. I think what's her name?
Rose Crisis.
he was right. It's not like the whole world dies. It's like, it's like the Palestinians and the Arabs. Like, if the Arabs allow us to be pushed out of here, then all the Arabs die with us.
And so, just one last question on that. What's the point of discussing it? I mean, it seems below 0.1% probability. So, what's the point of it?
It relates to what's going on right now. Next to
1%.
No, it does not. Are you saying that Iran is going to be able to defeat Israel so decisively, the U.S. won't get involved, Europe won't get involved, they're just going to beat them so decisively and overrun them that they're going to have to use a nuke?
No, let me answer that. Let me answer all that emotion he just brought. What I am saying is that Israel is saying that Iran represents that to them. Are you clear, CEO? I'm not saying shit. I'm telling you that Israel is saying that Palestine and everything around them, especially now, Iran, is trying to remove them off the planet.
They always say that. They've been saying that for decades. There's no difference in rhetoric. What are we talking about? It's like me saying, I'm going to come out. Hold on, real quick, one thing. I'm going to come up with the Gemini option. So Gemini comes to Delaware, body slams me, shoots me in the leg, then I'm going to drop kick him. Okay? What's the difference?
So look, like, I'll answer your question about like, could Israel really be defeated in a strategic way? Like, I don't know. I get that, right? And the Samson shit goes back to like the '60s and like their initial Middle Eastern conflicts, their rise to supremacy, like in that area, right, or their rise to permanency in that area. But what I see now, and this is just my take on it, is like, my thing has always been like, you guys are Eastern Europeans. Like, I was talking earlier, Netanyahu's name isn't Netanyahu, it's Milikowski. Like, all these people, like, they take these names to assume the identity of the Israel or the Jews that never left. Like, there are Jews who have lived there, Sephardic Jews that never left, and like, they are also the ones who like learned to live aside the Palestinians and who didn't have beef with the Arabs. This idea of like beefing with these people and whatever, this is like an Eastern European idea. And what I see is like, when you see Haifa is empty, Tel Aviv is empty, because as soon as the missiles start coming down, the flights start headed into New York and Florida and Jersey, right? Back to Europe, France. They start going back to where they're from. Like, so, like, when I see Palestinians getting bombed, I see them rallying. I see them like together, like fighting to unearth people and burying people together. And they're like one. They're like a battle-hardened people, and they've got a psyche about them that's like about resistance. And this is our home, and we are here, and we're gonna fight for this. When I see them, when the fucking Fatahs and the drones and all that shit start coming in, I see them eating each other. I see them kicking people out of shelters and mobbing each other, fighting to get into shelters and fighting. I see them in droves, 5,000-6,000 people at the sea, fighting to get on ferries to get out to cruise ships so they can come to Florida. Like, I don't see people that when the real hellfire starts coming down on Israel, that are going to be steadfast and like all this promised land and this is our land shit. Like, they don't believe that. That's a nice land that they've gotten and they would like to stay, but they are not willing to fight and die for it. They're not willing to be completely decimated as a population like the Palestinians, where the average age of a Palestinian is like 28. Like, Israel's not willing to go through that. And when the bullshit comes, if the bullshit comes, I just don't see them sticking around and fighting. I see them all running and fleeing, and I see the only people left as the extremist people, and I see the extremist people as the only people left willing to do some shit like kill everybody.
So
Here's the thing.
I think that's okay. Just wait 1 second. Wait 1 second. Nobody's fleeing. Nobody's fleeing Israel. The people that you saw Sydney leaving Israel were tourists that left after the bombing started, right? So Israel's airport has been closed except for emergency flights for the past like week and a half or something.
But there's tens of
So
thousands.
you see, wait, no, one second. Excuse me, 1 second. Yeah, there are some people who went to Cyprus, but those are emergency flights, and there are certain emergency flights that are allowed out.
And
Haifa and Tel Aviv are not empty right now.
They're all essentially empty.
No, they are not essentially empty. I know people who live in Haifa and Tel Aviv. Nobody is going anywhere. None of the people that live there are going anywhere. And there's still tourists in Israel who have not gotten out, who are leaving on emergency flights as they allow them out. So, and no, the airport is not destroyed in Israel. They tried to attack it, but it was not destroyed. So I think you might want to check your sources, because I have on very good authority that people are not fleeing Israel.
I'm putting it in the chat. I'm putting the video.
Yeah, you put a video in the
What does it matter? People are fleeing or not fleeing. What does it matter?
What we have here is like, Ron, you have some like anecdotal shit you believe, and I have some anecdotal shit I believe. But like the anecdotal shit I believe is like I said, watching them fight and eat each other to get into bomb shelters, not coming together. Watching them fight and eat each other. 5, 6, 7,000 people lined up on a beach, and lines a mile long of people coming onto the beach, fighting to get onto boats so they can go out to cruise ships and make it to Cyprus, so they can get on a plane to come back to New Jersey or wherever. So like, yeah, are they tourists? Are a lot of them tourists? I have no idea, right? Is Haifa empty? No, there are people left in Haifa. Is Tel Aviv empty? No, there are people in Tel Aviv. But as a vast majority of the civilian population gotten the fuck out of Haifa and gotten the fuck out of Tel Aviv, absolutely. And so, like, anecdotally, if I'm watching Haifa empty out, air quotes, empty out, Tel Aviv empty out, and I'm also seeing tens or thousands of people, upwards of like what to me visually looks like almost 10,000 people on a beach fighting each other to get on the ferries to go out to Cyprus, I'm going to say like people in Haifa are trying to get the fuck out of Israel. People in Tel Aviv are trying to get the fuck out of Israel. Like, that's just like anecdotal. But you're right, I have no solid proof.
Yeah, but why is this even hold on 1 second. Why is this even a debate? People want to leave places that are being bombed. How is this a revelation?
Yeah, I guess what he's trying to say, Sierra, is, on the one hand, you see that the people in places like Palestine, right, that feel like this is their home, right? Many of these people feel like they're descendants from the people that was there even prior to any Jewish person in that area, right? These people could have easily left. For 2 years, these people could have left.
Easily left?
Yeah.
No, they
Remember,
they could easily leave.
Let Lonzo land. Let Lonzo land.
Yeah, these people could have easily left. That was the whole thing, right? Unless Ron, you're gonna say it was a genocide and these people just had no other thing to do but just die, right? So the option was to leave and come back, right? Possibly, or to stay. And
no, that is not the option. Stop.
Right.
Stop misrepresenting.
Alonzo, I just have a question for you. Continue after his question. Are you saying that if the Palestinians had the same net worth and liquidity as the Israelis, they would still stay?
Wait, say that again?
I'm asking you, if the Palestinians had the same liquidity, the same net worth as the Israelis, would they still have stayed?
You talking about living or dying?
Liquidity, money, net worth.
Yeah, I know.
Cash.
I'm saying what's more than money or cash is living or dying, no?
No, I'm just saying if they had the money to leave.
The answer is no.
Yes. Listen. The fact is, right, what's greater than money is life, right? Because you could always get money back, right? Many thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of these people stay because they believe wholeheartedly that this is their home. Now, I put a few videos in the chat. I could put probably like 15 more, right, of different documentaries that are being made of these people calling everywhere else home aside from Israel. When when everything happens, right? When we're faced with either staying and dying on said quote unquote promised land, or that land, these people or many of these people are doing things like turning these bunkers to anti-Semitic bunkers, right? Because you're kicking your fellow sistren and brethren out, leaving them to die. Many of these people are fleeing. In fact, they're fleeing so much. One of the heads of Israel, I forget what was her position. I'm sure Ron will be able to tell us. Said no, you can't leave. The only way you could leave if you're somebody on vacation. And then we know other people that's lived there for years, and I have more documentaries, are saying no, I'm getting out of here. This is crazy.
Now, Lonzo,
more than just people vacation.
Yeah,
Lonzo, check this out, Lonzo. So here's the crazy shit about what's going on right now with the people who are trying to flee.
Can I respond to that real quick?
You're real. I'm gonna keep it in 60 seconds. So to your point, Lonzo, you're right. And what you're finding now is that a lot of people who are not able to physically leave. There was a brother in here earlier who specifically, he was talking about how he's like Kurdish, right? And he said that he's not Kurdish in just the broader spectrum. He knows exactly what village he's from and all of that. He has 14 generations buried on the same land. The only person who's not buried on that same land is his father. So these people don't have any inclination of wanting to leave that land. They're going to stay there regardless of how hard it gets. So I understand what you're saying, because the ones who feel like that's their land, they're not going to try to leave.
That man was not Kurdish. He was Palestinian. His father's family is from. He said his father's family was from Naples and his mother's family was from Haifa, and then they ended up in Jordan after, I guess 1967 or something like this. But anyway, as far as
when they got ethnically cleansed,
yeah, he was not Kurdish. No, the ethnic cleansing that you're talking about was happened in 1948. Thank you very much.
I'm sure it was.
And the way you call it, it was in 1967. 1967 happened because there was
got stolen.
Because there was a war.
Conclude this thought, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll give them the grace.
Yeah, so the issue with the people who leave and who don't want to leave in Palestine, which I don't think you can point to on the map, are people in Gaza, right? There are two border walls: the border wall between Israel and Gaza, and the border wall between Egypt and Gaza. The issue is Israel allowing them to go in. Israel can determine who is a Hamas combatant or who is a normal citizen of Gaza, and Egypt doesn't want to allow the citizens of Gaza who want to leave. Many people want to leave. You can see videos of those, right? You see people saying, "I want to leave." They won't let us leave. People are trying to escape because Egypt doesn't want to take them in as a refugee crisis, or at least let them step right across the border, the innocent people, into the Sinai Peninsula. Why? Partially because they're afraid that if they do, that the people who are Hamas supporters that are amongst them would join them, the Islamic Brotherhood or Islamic Jihad, one of those terrorist groups, and that will create a bigger problem. Is that people do want to leave. Unfortunately, the people in Gaza cannot currently leave.
Or
okay, hold on. Let me run, Lonzo. Let me just
give me 1 second, brother. Or right, could it be that Israel? I mean, places like Egypt knows, and Egypt is taking so many of them in, because of different stages of this ethnic cleansing that's been taking, place since '48. Or could it just be because they realize if Egypt takes all of them in, these people would never have a home to come back to, and they know the tricks, they know the play. No different than all the homes, the lands that people lived on for centuries.
So
right, and they can't return back to those places either.
So
this is simply speculation.
It goes along.
No, this is a fact. There's been too many documentaries saying
it's a fact.
Too many documentaries.
Yeah.
Speculation.
What was that famous model? What was her name? Hadid. Yeah, like she literally Bella Hadid when she literally said that she took some Israelis and some Jewish people in their home. She came back one day. They came back, and then they found out that they were getting kicked out of that same home that they actually took those Jewish people into to begin with, their families' home.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Like happen all the time. Because this story is not true. I've never.
Or the video from different New Yorkers that come to take.
I've looked for books. I've looked for articles. I've looked for any record.
Or that New Yorker that took birthright, right? Or one of the New Yorkers.
This story is bullshit.
Said no. Hold on, bud. Yeah, that New Yorker that took birthright and said, no, I'm not stealing your home. This is my home. I need your home.
Ron.
Oh, you're talking about the fat dude. You're talking about the fat dude.
Hold on, Ron. This is the thing, and it goes to what Christ has said, right? About 14 generations and whatnot. Of course, if a bomb is falling on somebody's head, you'd have to be a pretty down-ass dude to just stand there and say, I'm not leaving my house. But we have seen that. We've seen that in the Iraqi occupation and whatnot. People refusing to leave their homes because this is my home and you're not going to force me anywhere, and dying because of it. So that is a thing in a war-hardened society, a society where resistance is part of the psyche, the DNA of the people. So, of course, people will relocate to get themselves away from imminent death, but some people won't, and the people that won't are the people who have resistance built into them. How do you get resistance built into somebody? If any population would have that built into them, I think it would be the population whose average age is 28, where their entire family has been wiped out, and they vowed vengeance and vowed resistance against the people who have murdered generations of their family for the last 75-something years. If the question is, are you telling me if Palestinians had money, they wouldn't leave? Well, some people would leave, and they would come back. To me, that's why the two-state solution is unacceptable to Israel, because as soon as there is a valid Palestinian state that the entire international community recognizes, do you know how many Palestinians from all over the globe that have been displaced will return home? That's what they're scared of. To them, the existence of a Palestinian state, to them, the existence of a Palestinian state means the annihilation of Israel as an entity, because the claim to the land is so fucking strong. And it's not a delusional claim to the land. It's dude said, 14 generations of my people are from here, and I can point to you the valley that they're all buried in, and this and that. It's that. Yeah, people are going to run from bombs, but not everybody's going to run from bombs. But certainly, right, we've seen how these people have conducted themselves just over the last 2 years in this onslaught that they're experiencing, right? And I haven't seen a single video of Palestinians fighting each other. not a single instance of not even one Palestinian. Like you would think crime doesn't exist in Palestine. Gaza. You would think crime doesn't even exist over there. The way these people fellowship and take care of each other. But one day, like 1 week, missiles start raining down on the Israelis, and they are going fucking crazy.
So
they're going fucking crazy.
Question. Hold on. Quick question. So, what percentage of Palestinians do you think would leave if they could?
Probably the ones who have left.
Well, so there was a survey that said 31% wish they could leave.
Okay. I mean, I won't go against that.
Wait, tell me. Let's just get this clear. Let's get this clear too, CEO. When was that survey taken?
It was taken after October 7th.
Yeah, and are you aware that since October 7th, things like electricity and water and food was used
weaponized.
Yeah, you know,
of course.
These things, wait, and this goes for anybody, right? Because we understand that these things were also used against Jewish people during the Holocaust, right? Food and water were weaponized, right? So is it plausible that somebody that's starving, you can get them to say, yeah, I want to leave because I want to eat?
Exactly. Of course, but that's my point. It's like it's feasible. It's feasible that, like, if there's bombs in Tel Aviv, like, I don't want to stay. I'm gonna bounce. Like, I would bounce if I was there.
Do you realize that what you're admitting to right now?
And yet so many of them are staying.
Yeah, and CEO, but would you eat your neighbors alive trying to get out? That's at least what I'm talking about.
What is going on with this cannibalism? Like, what's happening?
My bad.
It's not actually happening.
Would you fight your neighbors to get out? Would you drag your neighbors and throw them behind you and take their spot? Like, would you do that in order to get out?
Sydney, can I say something real quick, please? If you understand 70 AD, you will absolutely fight your neighbor to get out. Because in 70 AD, the same shit happened. They surrounded the city, created a moat, and made it so that nobody could leave. And those who tried to leave were killed. And those who were in the city had to die from either starvation, malnourishment, whatever. So at the end of the day,
I'm not.
That's not what I'm trying to say to you, brother. I'm actually agreeing with you. What I'm saying is that the notion that Palestinians wouldn't leave if they're being faced with what Loso just said is ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, you still want to live. Notice the first thing that Loso said when he was asked that question is he said, "Are you asking me to decide between living and dying?" And Loso, please tell me if I'm lying on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that what you said, Loso?
I think he's saying Lonzo.
Is that what you said?
Lonzo, I think.
Oh, Lonzo, my bad. But is that what you said? When they asked you the question, you said, "Are you asking me the difference between living and dying?" Because nobody's gonna choose to die.
That's not true, bro. They would rather die than be persecuted. That's not true.
Especially if they have children. Especially if they have children. They're not gonna just choose to starve to death and stay where they are.
Well, they don't have a mindset like you. They don't think like you, bro.
Okay, great. All right, so because this is, respectfully, this is like all over the place, and I don't know what the thesis is. So maybe this might help. Live update from the New York Times: U.S. moves B-2 bombers as Iran and Israel exchange strikes. Several U.S. Air Force B-2 bombers appeared to have taken off from a base in the United States and were headed across the Pacific as President Trump was scheduled to meet at the White House with his national security team on Saturday evening to discuss joining Israel's attacks on Iranian nuclear sites. Air traffic control communications showed the B-2 aircraft which can carry the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs Mr. Trump is considering dropping on Iran's Fordo underground nuclear facility, taking off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. The destination of the planes was not clear, though one air traffic control message suggested they were en route to a U.S. airbase on Guam. Moving planes does not mean the president has made a decision to strike. It is not unusual to shift military assets into position to provide options, even if they are not ultimately deployed. It is also possible the U.S. purposely allowed the public to know about the movement to pressure Iran to come to the negotiating table. Okay. Thoughts?
Dr. AG, you know what's happening? You know what we've learned in the last 2 weeks? In the last 2 weeks, we've learned that Iran has the ability to penetrate the quote-unquote Iron Dome. We've learned that in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
At the same time,
What's that got to do with her comment?
But this is what
I say focus.
Hold on, crisis. Thank you, CEO. I want to just directly focus on the breaking news updated 3 minutes ago that the U.S. has moved these B-2 bombers. What are our thoughts on that? And if we could do that, without going back to the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s,
I'm definitely not talking about the 40s.
Yes, if we could do that, okay, let me get to a period, sir. Menopause notwithstanding. If we could do that without going back in time, that would be great. Thank you.
So I would like to know, Dr. AG, that started a year ago under U.S. Air Force. If you look up U.S. Air Force Task Force 21, it's a new program under the U.S. Air Force, right, to have airborne task forces, right? So they started flying Air Force bombers, B-52s, right, and the new prototypes from Louisiana and Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota, last year to Guam, right? So this is a continuation of that. That was one of the first things that Trump did when he got into office, right? He started relocating about a dozen new B-52s to Guam. So the issue they are discussing, right, and so I posted in the back chat these stories about him considering nukes. So what they're discussing is whether they were armed, right, with these bunker busters or these low-yield tactical nukes.
I'm sorry, so your sense is that this is part of an ongoing strategic exercise that may not be related to this specific Israeli-Iranian conflict? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
To my understanding, every 6 weeks they send them down, but they send an extra amount of bombers with this deployment.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
My thought is that even if that's the case, my thought is, what does Iran think about it? Because if we know about it, I'm sure they have enough intel to know about that movement as well. So I doubt seriously they're not looking at it as an escalation of that, okay, the U.S. is going to do this. And I think, like anybody would do, if you think that your house is about to be ran through or whatever.
Let me just get clarity before you go with the analogies. And I don't know, you guys, y'all need to work on the metaphors, but what do I know? But let me just say, so you're saying that the Iranians, that they will see this as a continuation of the exercise, or that they will see it as something new and threatening? I wasn't clear on that.
Okay.
It was not clear.
Let me make it clear. I'm sure they've heard about this 2-week notice that Trump gave. And then after that, now, a couple of days ago, he did that. So now they're learning today that what we just heard about that information, that movement to Guam, which is a lot closer wherever. So they're moving these bombers, B-1 bombers, it sounds like, over to Guam. So my thought is, and none of us know, so we're all just throwing ideas out there. My thought is that Iran sees that, and I doubt seriously that they think that's not an aggressive move. That it's just to be intimidated and, oh my God, now Iran is going to say they should back up now. I think they're preemptively thinking now, okay, they're getting in position, because if they do that, even if they don't destroy with the first bomber, they don't destroy the capacity, it's going to have a pretty big effect on the psyche and the actual physical reality in Iran over there, wherever that port, was it Fordo, whatever that base is. I'm thinking they probably have some things up their sleeve that they probably are going to do, you know, knowing that, hey, maybe America's real serious about acting on this. So they're going to play some cards. And I would discuss, I don't know what they are, but they're going to do something.
Yeah, I mean, there is some, I just want to share some reporting on it. I can share some reporting.
Theo, give me 1 second before you get a reporting. I'm going to be very brief. But they sent over 6 B2 spirits, right? Not B1s, sweet. And those are the only ones that are capable of carrying the bunker busters, right? And then they sent the supporting cast, refuelers, and everything else, right? With that being said, whether it's part of an ongoing transition that's already been happening or not, it definitely indicates that we're sending the specific planes that are capable of executing the only mission at hand. It looks like we're positioning for war, no matter how you put it. Like, anybody else interpreting that differently, I would be surprised.
So this is so here is I was gone. There's some reporting on this from the Atlantic. Iran bets Trump will blink first. Iranian leaders think they've cracked the Trump code. Lots of threats, zero follow through. His unconditional surrender post makes headlines, but his real move was to kick the decision down the road with a signature 2 weeks delay. Tehran's gamble, Trump talks tough, but when the trigger's in reach, he flinches. That is their thinking, according to the Atlantic.
That sounds very true to the TACO acronym. You're familiar with TACO, right?
No, I'm not.
Trump always chickens out, right? And that's what the world has been saying. They're calling him TACO for that reason. And what you said aligns with that.
My take is like similar to what the other cast said about, like, as soon as Trump got into office, he started.
Hold on for a second. Wouldn't that be like a smart thing, though? I mean, just...
Okay, so I don't want to... Let's not derail on Trump's psychographics. I don't like focus.
No, that would just definitely be a smart idea, right?
Yeah, we
nuclear
just...
war is just... That is stupid, right? That's very psychotic, right? So, I think anybody toying with nuclear consequences is a fucking maniac.
So when Trump first got into office, he started stacking up strategic bombers on Diego Garcia, which is in Guam. He sent a similar amount of B-2s.
No, Diego Garcia is in the Mediterranean. Guam is in the Pacific.
Is it?
Excuse me. They're not the same.
Okay, so he sent B-2s.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, CEO. They're not the same installation.
He sent B-2s to Diego Garcia when he first got into office. You're saying Diego Garcia is in the Indian Ocean?
Yes.
Guam is in the Indian Ocean, is it not?
Pacific.
Anyway, Guam is in the Pacific. Okay. Anyway, he sent B-2s to Diego Garcia as soon as he got into office. With the kind of story was that, like, he can touch the Middle East. Like that, he puts them there, he can touch the Middle East. So I don't think, like, sending B-2s over is, like, something that was needed to be done to be able to drop that massive ordnance penetrator, right? Like, I think that we already had the assets over there that we needed to drop that. And I don't even think that that's, like, signaling to the American people, like, willingness to drop it on Iran or on Fordow or whatever. I think it's just a great story that the media picked up. You see the B-2s taking off, and you're like, oh, is Trump going over there to, join the war with Iran? I also don't think the U.S. gives zero fucks about stopping Iran's nuclear enrichment program. I mean, to me, that's evidenced by the last literally 40 years where we've allowed them to enrich at will, basically. I think that this is stacking up to basically degrade their ability to launch missiles and touch Israel. We found out in the last 2 weeks or so that the Iron Dome is not useful against these attacks. The Arrow 3, they've got 3 tiers of kind of anti-missile defense, and Iran has shown that they can penetrate all 3 tiers of that. I think that this is literally just to help Israel, because the main majority of Israel's strikes are not on nuclear facilities. They're targeting the launchers and the sites that these hypersonic missiles and drone launches and whatnot come from. I think we're just going over there, and if there's any strikes, probably we'll hit Fordow. But that'll be 1% of what we do, if you ask me. 99% of what we'll actually be doing over there is helping Israel degrade Iran's ability to launch these missile barrages.
Dr. AG, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's I don't really know how to read it. I think it could be as simple as quote unquote saber rattling, but I think it could also be something that exacerbates tensions. Yeah, I haven't really decided how I think about it yet.
No, I think that's right. It's saber rattling until it isn't anymore, right? I think that's what it was.
Because I can't help but, I'm a pragmatist, right? So I can't help but think, okay, if the U.S. engages in any direct way, you have two big guys, quote unquote, teaming up against a little guy. And is that little guy gonna call their friends? Help me. And what are the friends' reactions gonna be? And then what are the consequences of that? This just seems like it has the ability to get out of control rather quickly if we're not micro strategic about our engagement.
Well, the most
being the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most practical way of that playing out is that if Iran asked Russia for weaponry, right, and our stuff's being used on them right now by Ukraine, and that's not considered us being at war with Russia. So Russia very well may say they do the same thing with Iran. So I think that's totally a practical.
Actually, Russia did say that the other day.
Yeah, so Russia has troops already inside of Iran, right? They don't actually have formal military bases inside the country, but they do have their strategic bombers, right? Positioned at the various military airports run by the, Iranian IRGC or what have you. So I just wanted to make a distinction, but then y'all can get off of it or whatever, move on. Sydney was partially correct, right? That's been a new development in the last 12 hours out of DC. They are moving bombers as well to Diego Garcia. So this is dualistic positioning in the Indian Ocean as well as the Pacific Ocean. There are, Defense Scoop, which is a website of people who work for the federal government, who track federal government actions, military, civilian. They are publishing, right, with pictures of the specific nuclear strategic bombers that left Minot out of South Dakota, right, Air Force Base, and Louisiana, as opposed to just the strategic bombers, right, heading to Diego. And I'll post those links in the back.
As far as like escalation goes, I mean, I heard reports, this was like several days ago, of cargo plane, 747 cargo planes that left China with Luxembourg as their destination. Then as soon as they got about 100 miles from the Iranian border, they turned their transponders off. Also hearing reports that Pakistan is sending shipments of ballistic missiles, like their versions of the hypersonic missiles, the Shaheen or something. They're sending those over. And the story that, well, the specific story that I read was that it's looking like, because Iran's launch sites are these mobile launch sites. So they're having these mobile launchers destroyed, but apparently Pakistan is replenishing them with these mobile launchers quicker than the Israelis can destroy them. And so the United States estimated that as far as these hypersonic missile capabilities, Iran only had about 1,000 to 2,000 of these. And the intensity with which they're sending these things over to Israel, they're having to completely rethink that. Either they're getting replenished quicker than they can shoot them, or they had way more than we thought they had from the start. So now estimates are saying they have upwards of 10,000 of these hypersonic missiles, or a ballistic and hypersonic missile mix. So, yeah, I think Pakistan definitely got Iran's back. China seems to have Iran's back. Russia and Iran seem to have signed some kind of 20-year mutual defense treaty very recently. I also know that Putin released a statement that says, we have thousands of nuclear scientists in Iran and they're not going anywhere. So it's kind of really gearing up to be potentially the kind of conflict everybody thinks it's going to be.
So when you're talking about the Chinese hypersonic, are you talking about those DF whatever things that they have?
I don't know about.
Is that what you mean?
I don't know, and nobody knows what was on
the ones that they tested 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, because that's kind of the thing is China. That's kind of the thing that made me scratch my head recently, was finding out that we were way behind in the hypersonic missile game.
Yeah.
But apparently China and Iran are the preeminent hypersonic missile manufacturers, and they do it domestically. So people are coming to Iran for hypersonic missile technology, and Iran is selling their hypersonic missiles on the international weapons market and whatnot. So they're big players. And we've seen in the last couple weeks, or the last week at least, their shit is no joke. Those things move. And the thing that's so dope about them is that all they got to do is just tweak their glide path. That's what makes them so deadly, is that they're traveling so fast that when these David anti-ballistic missile systems and the Arrow 3, they've come up with a firing solution, and they only have a limited amount of fuel to reach their intercept point. And so they're launched with a specific firing solution based on the glide path that they see this vehicle taking. And all the missile has to do is tweak its path slightly by a few degrees, and then 2 minutes later, tweak it another few degrees, and it's they've escaped interception. These things are moving at Mach 14, insanely fast. And, if you get your firing solution wrong, or, if the glide vehicle alters its path, your interceptor just can't touch it after that. So.
Yeah, I read about that in, I think it was National Security Journal a couple months ago. They were talking about, I didn't know they were Mark 14. I thought they were 7 or 8, but, well.
They range depending on the warhead that's attached to them, or the weight of the warhead. But the Fatah 1, at least, which is supposed to be the older version that people technically don't classify it as hypersonic because it's in question what its ability to actually change course and its glide path actually is. But the Fatah 2 definitely is hypersonic. People say they were launching the Fatah 1 in order to deplete the Iron Dome munition supplies, and then following that up with the more advanced ones that they could get through. But I'm kind of rambling now. The Fatah 2 up to Mach 14. And China has gangster anti-ship missiles designed specifically to take out like carrier group assets and whatnot that are reported up to have speeds up to Mach 27. So like insanely fast weapons.
I guess the next thing we should look for is if the U.S. sends THAAD or Patriots to Guam, because that would mean they're expecting something from China. That's like our best defense against.
Yeah, they're trying to move like two of their big boys to the South China Sea recently.
I know they just pulled the Nimitz out of the South China Sea to head to the Persian Gulf. Yeah. But that thing is like a bucket of rust. It's so fucking old. So, I also know the U.S. did just develop an upgrade to their, I think it's like their JDAM, their 2,000-pound JDAM, which is like a guidance package that allows them to, and these JDAMs are like $200,000 a piece, and I think this is kind of like where we're trying to focus our weapons capability in the future, is to get away from these like $20 million munitions, $10 million munitions. So they've upgraded the JDAM to be basically a ship killer now. So you can drop them from extreme height, 40, 50,000 feet, guide them down where they don't drop on the deck of the ship. They drop right next to it, penetrate 50 feet below water and explode there. And that's supposed to be like guaranteed ship kill every time, not just like a burning ship you have to send back to port, but like sunk. So I heard that in like a Popular Mechanics article recently, and the defense establishment is supposed to be really happy about this as a counter to China and their buildup of like naval assets and whatever out there in the Pacific.
I feel like the hypersonics are the answer now to those big crafts, right? Those big vessels you see. Those are just basically sitting ducks because there's nothing to stop those things. So if you get your position, tight enough, it'll cut right through like butter.
I mean, another thing that doesn't look good for the U.S. is as soon as those hypersonic missiles started landing in Tel Aviv and Haifa, we actually backed up all of our assets that are in the Persian Gulf and in that region. We actually backed them up outside of what we think their known range is to prevent them from touching us. Like previously, up until that point, our ships were positioned where they thought was a safe distance. And so they've actually extended their distance away from Iran in order to get away from what they now know is like the new actual effective range of those weapons. Not saying that they won't push in closer or whatever if it comes time to like fight, but before they do, they're definitely going to try to, like I said, what I believe their actual goal is to eliminate their ability to launch these missiles, not to hit nuclear facilities.
Did y'all hear where Bill Clinton was talking about how Bibi was like 2 votes shy of getting reelected or impeachment or something like that? And that's when he launched that last attack?
I did see Clinton say that, yes. Clinton's theory is that he did this to stay in power, and a lot of people think that, but it's very powerful that a former president actually came out and said that publicly.
So these things aren't conspiracy theories of, big heads of states and, presidents that's had relationship with this guy, for decades. He knows what it is. I'm just curious about like why so many Americans are kind of like late to that way of thinking. This guy wants to stay in power. This guy is, literally fighting fraud charges right now. He's a criminal. You know, this guy is literally a criminal, and you know, I hope Trump doesn't take, you know, his path, because if you're a wartime president, you got to stay in there. There is a way that you could stay in there. That's kind of interesting.
Well, the thing you have to be mindful about Clinton is he's older and he just doesn't care anymore. So he's saying something that probably no one else at his level would say publicly.
It's funny, the caption I saw in that video was like something like, it's funny what you're willing to say when you know the Epstein files got erased.
I'm sure somebody has copies.
Oh yeah, they got the Epstein file. We're just not going to release it for 50 years. They're going to wait till everybody dies, right? So that's all. It's just going to be the same thing as the JFK files.
Also, hey, happy Saturday. I've been in and out of the conversations. But there's a podcast with Bill Clinton, and he's on his wife's podcast, and he talks about Israel, the conflict during his presidency, and a little bit of the history. And I found it interesting. But I was in and out.
What did he say? What did he say?
I don't remember, honestly. I had to listen to it again.
I'll put it in the chat. I think I got it.
Y'all asleep? Yeah. What up, First Lady?
I just came.
What up, Ferg?
I was trying to figure out what y'all was talking about.
I was lost in the Hey, Patty. Hey. I was lost in the sauce of, that was
Now, so, Patty, I had just read the announcement from the New York Times that the U.S. was repositioning B-2 bombers to Guam. That's what I read, and that's what we were talking about. And then we got off into the technology, who has hypersonics, how do you defend against hypersonics, that kind of thing. Glad you're... Okay.
Patty, is that photo of you in Iran gathering some intelligence for us?
I mean, it makes sense to pre-position them in Guam because we have pre-positioned a warehouse there. We pre-positioned, we're trying to pre-position ammo in Micronesian Islands. And they're probably pre-positioning it just in case something things go wrong. So it makes sense for them to put it in Guam. That's where we have a smaller warehouse. It's a very small warehouse. And we were trying to use it for the Indo-PACOM area, so it'd be quicker to get supplies. So yeah, it makes sense.
Does anybody have any thoughts on, like I heard some Israeli defense minister saying that they've got something planned coming up real soon that'll make that beeper shit look like daycare.
They did it earlier today.
What was it?
Yesterday, where they sent an emergency meeting for a lot of the top missile builders or scientists. They all met in a disclosed area, and when they did, they sent like a crazy ass bomb to kill all of them.
Oh shit!
Terrorism.
See, I've been talking to y'all all day and hadn't been in the news and whatnot.
Yeah, there's a lot of like Iranians that are on like Telegram chats and yeah, that's where it's out. That's where they're talking. And there's definitely apparently, allegedly, they said there's going to be a some big responses. And I think one of the Mossad leaders died today. Maybe coincidence? But there's been like a bunch of targeted attacks at a lot of these people's homes. And apparently he died. If there's any Israelis in the room, they confirm. And another thing too, man, there's a lot of engineers and scientists in Iran, men and women. That's impressive how a lot of these scientists get killed, and there's one after the other that's like waiting for the opportunity to take, to take lead.
Yeah, I saw an interview. It was titled like the last interview that top Iranian nuclear scientist had done before he got assassinated. And in that video, he's basically saying like, we don't do anything anymore. Like, we've trained up so many scientists and engineers and whatnot that like now we don't even do anything. Like, it's them who are in control. Like, they basically like they got this now. Like, I'm retired, so I don't even know how.
Yeah, I remember that.
How true that is or whatever. But
I believe it.
The gist was like, yeah.
It was like a huge convention, I want to say a few months ago, where like some professors from different European countries were, at like a missile, like a showcase that Iran had, basically saying, listen, we have so many different ones. These are a lot of our old ones, our old technology. They were showing a bunch of hypersonic missiles. So, they're ready.
I can't even understand nothing. You got a lot of noise in the background. Or is that me?
No, my fault. This car. It's like 96 degrees. These Teslas a lot of shit.
Hello?
XRP is down.
What's XRP?
Everything is down. Gemini, what are you talking about?
Token.
Everything is down.
What do you mean?
You're talking about cryptocurrency.
Why is it down?
War.
Yeah.
War makes an unstable market. An unstable market creates volatility.
Because of that recent shipment to Guam.
Volatility, and that means you lose money temporarily, at least.
Sometimes it's a great time to buy stocks.
Yeah, you can look at it as a Black Friday. I just don't like looking at my portfolio right now.
Don't look at it.
I do. I log in, I log out. I don't trade because I already know.
Hey,
sit on it.
Yo, ride it for the long haul. Just look at it, right, First Lady? That's right.
There's nothing bad to look. It's bad when you sell and take that loss for real.
How's everyone doing this lovely Saturday?
Doing good, son. Doing good. How are you, son?
Good, good. I just left this food festival.
Oh, really? How was it?
It was nice. I ran into one of my good friends. I happened to walk in it, and what do I see? I see her and her son. So it's funny because I don't know a lot of people here, but I've known her since I was 15 years old. And she moved here 12 years ago. I moved here 3 years ago. And we happened to be at the same place at the same time. And I was shocked because she never comes to Brooklyn. So just another little coinky dink. And she's here with her whole family. They're here from England, or I'm sorry, Spain and Florida, because her son is graduating on Monday.
Then it's not a
so anyways,
thing. That's the world's
yeah.
It's the world's
So her son, Javis, is super handsome. I'm going to go see them tomorrow. Anyways, we had planned to do a barbecue for his graduation. So really excited about him. He's such a good kid. Man, she raised this man all by herself. Well, with her family. But he turned out to be such a good kid. And so, yeah.
Is that your dad
Fun
in your
times.
PRC?
That's my pops, yes.
That's dope.
Yeah. So, thank you. So yeah, another New York moment. Oh, weather's great. Went to Trader Joe's, picked up some stuff. Now I'm headed home. Was in and out of this Israel-Iran conversation all day, but I was mostly out of it. So I'm going to stay out of it. I'm going to continue to stay out of it. But if anyone has some good recommendations for books, podcasts, drop them in the chat. I am trying to learn more about the situation. But yeah, I'm not liking what I'm hearing today. It sounds like we're inching closer to continuing this war. So.
Sin, so did you forget you're on Clubhouse? You don't have to be knowledgeable to talk about something?
Oh, you're right, yeah. You're right. I do have a PhD in Israeli studies, if that's impresses anyone. A Clubhouse PhD.
I have a Clubhouse PhD too. Look at my name.
Yep. What's the Gemini plan again? Go in there, fuck shit up? Is that what CEO said?
No, the Gemini plan was if Gemini ever comes to Delaware, body slams me and shoots me in the leg, then I will drop kick him.
Okay. But you'd be shot and on the floor, so.
I was trying to understand how he's going to body slam me after he was...
I was trying to say something as nonsensical as the whole Samson option. Yeah, I did that on purpose, you know?
All right.
You know, since we're not talking politics right now, I'll ask y'all this to get a woman's point of view real quick. Because my daughter and I were having a debate, and she's telling me because I have a penis, I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And we were debating in regards to...
Correct.
Yeah, I knew you were going to
say that. That's sexist.
That's also correct.
But, we were talking about a lady that unfortunately passed while her baby was, I think, only 2 months, and then they forced the family to take care of the baby, and they kept her alive as an incubator.
She took delivery.
And she's totally against it. She feels like it's this exploitation of a woman, and that there's a racial element involved. Right, that basically they're kind of experimenting on her, and then forcing the family to take the bill. Which that aspect I get, the bill part. But I was thinking, and I can't speak as a woman obviously, but I was thinking if I was a woman, hypothetically, I would want my baby to live
well, hold on, because it's not agreeing with the medical staff or disagreeing with them. There's a law in place, an anti-abortion law, that prevented the medical staff from, quote unquote, pulling the plug, which was the family's wishes. So I don't think the medical staff didn't really get into the ethical debate of it. It was more so they were trying to follow the law. It was considered they would have gotten sued under the abortion law had they pulled the plug.
No, I'm familiar with that portion, Sin. I guess let me rephrase my question. Do you agree with the law would be a better way to phrase the question? Do you think that that's right for them to keep her alive?
I do not. I don't think that. I think she's dead already. So the only thing kept alive is with the kings, right? Because of modern day science, she's kept alive. The mom's dead. The child dies with her, so it's not necessarily an abortion. So that's my sort of gripe with this, is that it's not that, I don't think my ethics necessarily even comes in the picture. Scientifically, the only reason she's kept alive is with modern day medicine. So this is a modern day problem. So it's like, to me, I don't even get into the ethics of it. To me, the mom said the child would follow.
So sorry. Can I sort of the issue? So can someone explain the issue to me?
I'll try. So this woman was 9 weeks pregnant, and she went into a coma, and she was pronounced brain dead. And the mother, and I think at the time that the child's father, but don't quote me on that part.
The child's father also, you're right. Keep going.
Yeah, okay. Wanted her to be removed from the life support. But the hospital said, because of the law, I think this was in Georgia, because of the law in Georgia, that would constitute an abortion because the baby would also die. Because at that time, there was a fetal heartbeat. And so the debate was around the hospital's decision to keep this woman alive so that she could incubate the baby until the baby had reached a point of viability where it could live outside of the mother. So, of course, one line of argument is keeping the baby alive, it's preserving life. The other side of the argument is that the woman was not allowed any sort of autonomy in that instance, I guess is the word, right?
Well, what autonomy could she have?
Hold on. You asked for the explanation. Let me give it. That because the child dependent upon the mother, it was the argument that Sin articulated. If the mother dies, the child dies, right? And forcing her to live under those conditions was inhumane. That was the argument.
Okay, but I just have a question. Just a question.
Hold on.
Oh, I thought she was.
No, because I initially came off the mic because Gemini asked for a woman's perspective and I was going to give mine. So my perspective is I am of divided conscience on this because I don't like this notion of women being forced to give birth, right? Because in instances like this, it is the immediate family who make a decision about whether or not to continue life-sustaining measures, right? And so that was removed from this family. My other thought on it, which is related to that one, is this is a lesson for us, particularly women, childbearing women, but everybody maybe, to create living wills and DNRs so that you can have your will, your wishes respected. But as Sin pointed out, this is also a conflict in the law because it takes that decision away from the woman. So even in the instance if this woman was alive and the baby was quote unquote threatening her life, right? There's no guarantee that she would be allowed, as we have seen in cases in both Texas and Georgia, to terminate this pregnancy because of these heartbeat laws. So I think there are a couple of issues that this case brings to light. So Gemini, that would be what I would say.
So there's an underlying issue here, though. I just wanted to ask you about that, Bridgie. How do we know the woman wouldn't have wanted the kid to continue on? Like that, I don't know how we're getting into her autonomy. But yeah, that's my point. It's a 50-50, right? So how does her autonomy come into?
CEO, this is
but
what
the
I was
thing
told.
is that usually in these circumstances, it's the living relative, right? So the next of kin makes the decision on behalf of their relative. So you become the voice or the spokesperson for that person. And inherent is in that is the assumption, sometimes false, that there have been conversations around this. So if it were my sister, I would know like what my sister's wishes are. So they come to me and they say, what do you want to do about this? I contemplate it, I talk to Jesus, and then I make a decision. So the debate is less around the woman's autonomy than it is around an institution deciding to take extra measures to sustain her life, not for the chance that she's going to get better, right, and have an improved quality of life, but solely for the purposes of keeping a child alive.
CEO, look, she was very excited about having that baby. Very. She's a nurse, right? She already had a 6-year-old daughter, right? And she was going around trying to get medical attention because she was having, I think it was headaches prior to that.
Correct.
Right? So she was definitely excited about it. So in my opinion, from what I know of her, right, the limited things I do know of her, it would align with her being willing to still try to conceive if she's not there. And I also, and this is the portion where my daughter said I was being insensitive, because she already knows I'm very pro-women's rights. I raised her to be the same, right? But this is where her pushback was. I don't think it caused any trauma to her, or that she was put through anything, because she's literally brain dead. She doesn't feel or think. She's not there anymore. Her spirit has departed. You know what I mean?
But so, what about the only difference to that though would be, oh, I'm sorry, Patty.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only counter to that is the reason they performed the emergency C-section was because she started having difficulties. She's gurgling and having issues, and so they performed the emergency C-section. And I honestly don't know that we know enough about the brain to know when people stop experiencing pain, never come back, with us, right? So it's something that's it's an ambiguity in science as well. So, I mean, I don't know. Go ahead, Patty.
Said, what about possible trauma to the fetus? The thing is, everybody want to save a baby, but they don't know what. No, who's gonna take care of the baby, or like what? Like your oxygen levels, are they lower? Like, does it affect the baby's brain? Does it affect its development? Like, they're saying that it's healthy, but they're also saying other things too. You know what I'm saying?
They monitor. One thing I do know is they monitor the oxygen levels. That's easily monitorable, right? They know that for sure. But for me, what would be deeper is the baby experiences everything that a mom experiences, right? Her emotions, what she eats, like everything that mom experiences translates to the baby. So I was wondering how that would impact her, because you're dealing with a mom that's not emotionally connected to the baby, that's not nurturing the baby, that's not interacting with other people in the way that a normal person would. So the baby's not hearing or experiencing any of those elements, and it makes me wonder if there will be any developmental issues later on that the baby would experience from that.
I mean, I still think that Dr. A.G. made the most salient point, which is who's making the call, right? If someone in my family had this situation befall them, knock on wood, it's an obvious tragedy, and my family said, let her go, and the hospital said, no, we've decided against that because, some whatever reason, whether it's law or some liability thing or something, I would be livid. And I think I'd be absolutely right to be livid. Next of kin should absolutely make this tragic, horrific decision. It should not be a matter for the state or a hospital or anyone else to decide on something like that. Especially when we're not talking about a in the moment judgment call. We're talking about a long, months that they kept her on life support.
Months.
Yeah, that's crazy. That has to be the family's call. It has to be. Anything else is completely inhumane. We could have a deeper ethical conversation after that. If you were the family member, what would be the right choice to make? And that's hard and complex, and it's not like there's a lot of history of it because modern medicine is the only thing making this possible. But to me, that initial question is very, very plain, and I don't think we can get past that without agreeing on that.
I think that's because with Roe v. Wade being overturned, that puts it back into the state's power to be able to make that decision, and they determined once they were able to locate a heartbeat on that baby that this would be technically air quotes in an abortion if they were to terminate her life and take her off of life support. So, I get what you're saying. Who makes the decision? And even more so after that, who foots the bill? And even more so after that, who cares for the baby? Because you forced a life, now you forced a breathing bill onto somebody. And gave them, that has to be a significant cost associated with them caring for her this long, for months on end, So that part doesn't feel fair at all.
But that's in line with the anti-abortion quote unquote philosophy, right? The value or the quality of life is considered in fetal personhood, but once that person exists out in the world, there's no concern for maintaining any sort of general standard quality of life, right? We don't support children. We don't provide women who are, for whatever reason, not capable of on their own sustaining maternity, right? Which isn't just pregnancy, but maternity, the nurturing and caring for and mothering of a child. All the systems to support women are constantly being underfunded and minimized. So we're saying to women, keep these children, birth these children, but we're not offering them any sustained support to raise these human beings in any kind of humanitarian system of life support, right? So, I think these laws are consistent with that. Babies matter until they're born, institutionally and legally speaking.
That makes sense. I don't think they're going to keep the family on hook for the bill, from what I understand, though. I don't think they're going to be on hook for the bill. However, I think they are going to be the primary caregiver.
Yeah, and God forbid, as Patty was mentioning. Oh, sorry.
They are going to have to pay the bill.
Are they? Because they're saying private insurance, and that her family is unlikely in Medicaid.
So is the baby insured?
No, the mother's insurance. The mother's insurance initially, they said that's what they're going after. What you say, Vanessa?
Yeah.
I can't hear you. You were breaking up at the end just now.
Your insurance doesn't recognize the baby till it's born, right? And then is there what are the additional fees that they're gonna have to pay? Because I don't know how civilian insurance goes, but I know some people say they have a cap, right? I don't know.
But there's also
ma'am.
for some insurance companies, I'm not sure of the time, but there's a period of time where the child gets onto the health insurance in the event that, you know, when the child is born, that there are issues, then the mother and the child are covered. I can't remember exactly because the insurance that I have, it works like that. And I don't know if I can't remember if it's like what is it, 38? I don't know if it's like 38 weeks. I can't
your baby could be born at 38 weeks.
Yeah, so
I don't understand the
I can't remember if it's like 36 or 38, where then the child gets written onto the coverage.
As soon as the child is born, it's automatically covered under the
right. Yeah,
no, but I think it is 36 that you're talking about because of
yeah.
So premature wouldn't count, and then 36 and up, or is it 37 and up?
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember because in the insurance that we have at my job, they have that. So when you're pregnant.
Sorry. So when you're pregnant.
We're talking about the lady that carried the baby.
Yes.
Right. We're talking about that. So I thought when you die,
wait
a minute, Sin. So firstly, what I'm talking about is like, because I had to navigate this, and I can't. It's been a really long time, so I can't remember. But there is a period before the birth of the child where you put the unborn baby gets covered by the insurance, because then it protects the child for birth complications. But I don't remember the exact weekage.
Well, when I used to pay claims and adjust claims, the child is considered still part of the mother until the child is born. Once the child is born, then the insurance automatically kicks in. Anything prior to the birth of the child is all covered as the mother. So,
but if the mother is declared dead, wasn't she declared dead?
See, that's the part that I was trying to get to. Where's that statistic? I mean, or where those details? Was she actually claimed as dead, or were they still keeping her alive?
They were keeping her. They were keeping her alive, but the conversation came up because when that happened, it was 9 weeks, and so, from my memory, that would have been outside of the time for the coverage, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's like it depends on what your insurance coverage is and how your policy is written, how that works. But I do specifically remember that from our first insurance policy. I just don't remember the time.
Let me dumb my question down a little bit for and make it more direct. If you ladies I don't mean dumb it down as in, like, I overshot my point is what I'm trying to say, right? Let me ask it this way. If it were you ladies and you were deemed brain dead at 9 weeks, would you want the child to still be born, or would you want it to die? That's what I'm trying to ask.
I would have wanted what God wanted. If I'm dead, the child's supposed to go with me. Period.
Yeah, don't keep me alive.
I third that.
And fourth.
Wow.
You know, I get what you're saying. I guess in your eyes, you're like, okay, I'm already dead. Why would I want my kid to be dead?
Right.
That's how you think of it.
Right.
Yeah. And you're entitled to think that way. And many women will think that way. There's probably a percentage of women.
I've heard a lot of women say the opposite of what y'all said. I've heard a lot.
Yeah, and I agree with that, right? Because people don't have the same mind. However, because I'm a sci-fi person and I think towards the future, what if I decided, I wanted to donate my organs, right? And what if one day someone decides, hey, you can donate to be a carrier? So there's a scenario that people could just keep women's bodies alive just to produce children.
How do you
feel about that?
I don't like that. But look, let me explain to you this way, right? And it's not going to be the same. And let me just preface my statement with that, right? If it's me and my child, and I know that, I have to go for that child to live, or I'm going to go anyway and keep me alive indefinitely so the child can live. It wouldn't even be a question. There's nothing to talk about. Like, keep me alive so the child can live.
But I think that depends on what your moral and ethical principle is, right? And everybody has a different grounding. So, like First Lady said, there's a reason why women are given the primary responsibility for bearing children. And in considering that as a sort of the religious imperative around that, right? The nurture is my responsibility, and if for some reason I'm unable to fulfill that responsibility, then it ends, right? Like, that's just one perspective, right? But I think, how do I want to say? I think that the idea that this being exists inside of a woman's body, and that the woman does that labor, I think it orients women to think about it in different ways. It doesn't mean that all women are going to agree, but that experience of carrying this life positions a woman to feel a particular way about it. So in the same way that women differ on their decisions to have children, right? I think women will differ on this. So
Dr. A.G., let me go ahead and read some of the issues this is some of the real world impact on her cases. So during the pregnancy, the fetus developed hydrocephalitis. Syphilitis, okay. Right now there's future neurological and physical development that is going to be a problem, that could possibly be a problem for their baby. During the months that she was on life support, she had infections, metabolic changes, and hormone failures.
And hydrocephalitis for people.
Isn't it crazy that bumps into
It's literally like hydrocephalitis.
English for Gina's graduation.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I don't think she knows she's on.
Yeah, so Melissa, her mom.
Okay, so hydrocephalitis is water on the brain.
Right, so remember they were talking about that. I think it was this month too.
I'm very familiar with that.
It says, this case starkly illustrates the medical, ethical, and logistical obstacles. So there is an actual study of women that were women that this has happened to before, right? So 35 cases, but this was during the third trimester. And of the 35 cases, only 12 of these children survive.
So are you finished with the statistics?
Yep.
I think the details matter here. Usually I'm not into the details, but she's 9 weeks, which means that this embryo is very, very, very small, which means that the body itself has to do a lot to continuously form this. At this point, the forming of this embryo, or the continuation of it, is all manufactured. It's not of God. And it's something different. Like if she was, 21 weeks, you got a lot more parts, and then it's like, okay, all we got to do is keep giving her oxygen and things. It really disturbs me at the 9-week period of time. This lady should have been way well gone, and the impact that it also had on their family. To see your child who was never going to come back still living here as if it was a machine. Just that thought alone, it's just weird to me. If a woman was in a car accident and they're able to get the child out and put the child inside an incubator, absolutely keep that child, do whatever you need to do to keep the child alive. But at 9 weeks, they couldn't even take the child out because the embryo wasn't even completely, informed yet. So that's why it's just like really kind of difficult for me to say in this particular essence within the details that keeping that baby alive was something of good.
And what Patty described a little bit ago, I didn't know, right? I didn't know it was born with those complications. And I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm very familiar with that specific complication. They will never lead a normal life, even if they live, and most don't live.
Yeah, and currently that baby has had, they said, so what it's saying is the brain hemorrhages. I guess the baby's name is Chance. So reported in Chance's case have been brain hemorrhages. They've been dealing with respiratory distress because of the lungs being undeveloped. They said this is going to be a longer than regular NICU stay because of some of the developmental delays in the organs and maturity. It's not even mature for up to the weeks that it should be.
Let me move the goalposts just a little bit, right? So if the baby, let's say it was 5 months, right? Which means it's a lot more developed than 9 weeks, right? Would y'all still have the same sentiment as far as not letting it see it through? Let's say 6 months.
So that's why I brought up the cases that said there was 35 cases. There were 35 cases. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it in the chat. They said there was 35 cases where, and they were in their 3rd trimester, and only 12 of those children survived.
That reminds me of, as a breeder, right? And this is going to sound weird because I'm about to compare children to dogs, but I'm going to do it. There are certain times when the mother gives birth and she nudges the baby to the side. And as a breeder, I've been breeding for a long time. I know not to try to save that pup and spend a ton of money at the vet because it's going to have some internal developments or underdevelopment that I can't see, but the mom senses. So it's not even worth saving at that point, as bad as that sounds, right? And it kind of sounds like that's what you guys were saying, like it's already going to be so many issues that is not worth seeing it all the way through just for that element alone, because it's not going to live a normal, healthy human life.
My thing is simply getting in the way of what God planned. If I was supposed to die, I was supposed to die, and the baby's supposed to die with me, period. Like, you manufacturing something in a lab and then keeping this baby alive. The baby was born like at, what is it? I forgot. 1 pound or something like that.
1 pound.
Yeah, like, come on. I just think that's just, I don't know. I don't see the humanity in it. It just seems more like a science project. Let's see how we can stretch this. Let's see if we can really make it baby and all that.
I'm glad my daughter cannot hear y'all right now because she'd be on my head right now.
Yeah, this is an experiment.
Gemini, we started out by saying that she was right already.
No, I caught that. Believe me.
Mel, where you been at? You must have been somewhere on your daggone burner. Come here, Mel.
Mel outside.
Exactly. She outside playing.
Hello.
Outside. Get out the playground. Where you been at another?
Melly Mel.
Listen to these people. Her green bean disappear. We know she
First
been
lady, your point, they barbecuing and they ain't even invited me. That's
just going over there.
That's the worst.
I know. If I wasn't going to the dog park, I would have gone right over there with my lawn chair. But
that's when you gotta ask them.
First Lady,
you gotta
your
ask them,
point
are you
is
barbecuing? Ask them a rhetorical question.
your point is a good like that's one of the things, right? Like the whole thing of bioethics is one part, but then there's this Christian, I mean, there's this religious or spiritual aspect of it too, because if you consider the child to be a human, right? If you consider the child personhood, right, then there's an obligation to treat that person or to recognize the humanity of that person and to have some sort of humane approach to the decision making on their behalf. And so saying that you're going to bring in to the world this person who has no independent functioning, whose independent functioning you already know will be seriously retarded or limited is an issue. But then on the other side, those people like Sarah Palin, you know, they bring children in the world all the time. So it always goes back to whose decision, who gets to make the decision.
I get it. I mean, and even I believe even if you had the that will on file, like the right to will, whatever it's called, I still for these states, I believe it's overwritten.
Right. It is.
Which is wild to me because this is not an abortion in my eyes, right? If I am seriously injured, let's say in a car crash, and I don't survive, and I'm brain dead, it's like I'm not, and something happens to my child, I didn't abort that child. Like that, it's just really, I have a problem with them classifying it as an abortion. And I also have a problem with the experimental nature of this because we will see how Chance turns out, and I pray for him. I pray he turns out well. But this is an experiment, right? And so this is the first time I've heard of anything like this, and it's probably going to continue in these red states. And so I guess we will see how these, kids turn out in these situations. But also, I do think that families have a right to say what happens to their family members as far as if they want, what type of extreme measures they should be able to take their families off life support. I think that's a decision that's always been, if you don't have a living will, that's something that should, historically, it goes to the families to decide or your spouse to decide. That's always been the case, but that wasn't the case here. So those are some of the issues I have.
Yeah, keep this shit updated. Remember that case in Florida where the woman had a husband?
Oh, I was just about to bring that up. Terry Schiavo. Yeah, and her husband wanted the feeding tube removed, and her parents